La Jirujiemo. Habeng was a little puzzled, just like he had felt when he'd first heard the words Yangzhou fried rice. However, the meat one in its name really intrigued him. "Two for me, Mag," he said, a little thrilled. "Two, for me," Haga echoed. He, too, was pretty expectant because they both loved meat the most. To be sure, Yangzhou fried rice was good, but it only had a little meat in it. "Sure. Please wait a second," Mag answered, and went into the kitchen. "Ma Bai, you're always the first," Habeng said with a smile as he sat opposite Ma Bai. Ma Bai shook his head. "Not today. A human girl came earlier than me." "Good morning, little lady," Haga said with a smile as he looked at Amy. Amy nodded. "Morning, big orc." Then she looked at his fangs and asked curiously, "Will these get in the way when you eat?" Haga shook his head, smiling. "I'm used to it. Mine are very even." Amy revealed her small even teeth to him, showing off. Haga smiled, and then he took a seat beside Habeng and waited for his meal. After a little while, Mag came out with 3 Rigiamos and served one to each of them. "Smells good. This is the La Ji Rigiamo you talked about? It has a lot of meat in it." The strong meat aroma made him swallow as he held it in his hand. Inside the bag, the white baiji bread was stuffed with lean meat and fat, which was seductively greasy. "It sure is quite different than the Yangzhou fried rice. I've never smelled such a special meat aroma. It's most appetizing," Ma Bai complimented as he looked at the Rigiamo in his hand. Then he finished the last bite of Yangzhou fried rice on his plate. "I'll try it now." Habeng tore the bag open and ate almost half of it in one gulp. The streaky pork which had absorbed the tasty gravy was wrapped by the sweet baiji bread. As he chewed on it, the tasty gravy seeped into the bread and the soft yet chewy meat melted in his mouth. It was so delicious that every taste bud was dancing as their craving for meat had been greatly satisfied. Habeng found it more surprising after he swallowed. The Rigiamo was like a fireball falling down his throat, just as if he had taken a draught of wine. His blood became hot as if something inside him had been awakened. "Roar!" Habeng couldn't help but tilt his head back and let out a roar, which even made the table shake. It was loud. "Yes." Amy lifted an eyebrow and seemed a little irritated. She held out her hand. However, Mag softly held her little hand before she could unleash her fireball. He smiled and shook his head, signaling her not to do that. He looked at Habeng curiously, knowing that he didn't do it on purpose. The system had said that the Rigiamo had a stronger effect on a wilder species. Even he felt restless after eating it, and orcs were much wilder than humans, so it wasn't very strange that Habeng had reacted violently. He didn't know the effect it would cause, though. Habeng's roar startled Ma Bai and Haga, but they had tried the Yangzhou fried rice and knew it could relieve fatigue, so they were not worried that this Rigiamo would be bad for them. Instead, they were looking at Habeng with expectation, wondering what special effect it would cause. After a roar, the hot-blooded Habeng looked toward Amy first and was relieved when he saw no fireball. "Sorry about that. I couldn't help it," he said apologetically. "Mag, this Rigiamo is really good, but it made me. I feel my blood is pumping, and my strength seems to have been increased." Mag nodded, smiling. "Yes." As Ma Bai and Haga heard this, their eyes lit up. They took a bite of their Rigiamos at the same time immediately. Both were lost in its taste right away. After they swallowed, the hot blood also made them roar despite themselves. While Ma Bai's sound was much lower, Haga's was louder, like Habeng's. Haga scratched his head embarrassedly. "So sorry," he said to Amy. Amy nodded. "It's your first time, big orc. I won't mind. But it's not the first time for someone. Sorry. It won't happen again," Habeng said as he nodded. Then he took another huge bite, savoring the delicious meat and baiji bread. What an intoxicating taste! He swallowed, and this time he had learned he covered his mouth quickly and made no sound. Haga copied his brother and covered his mouth each time he swallowed, restraining his roar and at the same time savoring the good food. It's very good. Give me 5 more, Mag. Habeng said to Mag as he put the bag on the table. He was a little excited, his face still red. Now that he had finished it, he was fully aware of the effect of this Rujiamo. Not only could it excite the body, but it was even able to stimulate the blood and increase the strength. Me, too. 5. Haga held up 5 fingers to Mag. Mabai shook his head. It's pretty good. But I feel my body can't stand this excitement anymore. This one should be enough for me. The blood was rushing inside his body. Although he got used to it quickly and even felt a little comfortable, he liked Yangzhou fried rice better as it would soothe his muscles. Today we only serve samples, so each person can only get up to 3 samples for each meal, Mag said as he shook his head, smiling. It might need to be improved, so we'll start to sell it tomorrow officially. There'll be no limit, but since the ingredients prepared are limited, first come, first served. He didn't want to make too many Rujiamos today, because they were only samples, and the meat wasn't quite ready. It was only a warm-up for tomorrow, so he didn't care about how many he could sell, but rather how many people he could sell them to. It's so good, 3 is not enough. Habeng was a little anxious. Mag, how much is it? I'll double the price and buy another 2. What do you say? He asked. Mag took a look at the expectant Habeng and Haga and became a little hesitant. Habeng offering to pay double didn't interest him, though, he just didn't want to decrease the quantity and increase his price like a scalper. They had really helped him a lot with the crowdfunding yesterday, otherwise, Amy wouldn't have been able to eat such a delicious Rujiamo today. He thought for a moment and nodded with a smile. The new dish came out earlier because of your money, so you can eat as many as you want today, and at the same price. Habeng's face lit up right away. You're a hell of a guy, Mag. Then I'll have 5 more, and so will my brother, he said. Mag is truly not one of those devious human businessmen. Mag nodded. Okay. Please wait a moment. Then he turned around and walked towards the kitchen. Little owner, may I have the check, please? Mabai's fatigue from staying up late last night was completely gone after a plate of Yangzhou fried rice and a la ji Rujiamo. He felt very refreshed and comfortable after the Rujiamo because his blood was now running at a higher speed. When he put the craft bag on the table, he noticed Amy's back on the bag. He was a little surprised, but found it quite understandable. He might have known Mag for only a few days, but he could tell that he was a good father, and that he loved Amy with all his heart. Amy was a motherless half-elf, but she wasn't very timid, which was quite uncommon for a hybrid. Actually, her doting father had made her brave as well as cute. But this back may give rise to troubles, Mabai thought. No matter. Amy's fireball could terrify even Habeng, and Mag is definitely no ordinary man, he looks quite smart. Amy walked over to Mabai. 9 gold coins, please, she said after calculating in her head. Right. Take it out of my crowdfunding money, Mabai said with a smile as he rose to his feet. Amy nodded. Okay. Then she walked to the kitchen door and looked at her father, who was making a Rujiamo. Father, dwarf grandpa Mabai said he'll use that crowd money to pay. Is it okay? Sure. That's the agreement. Mag smiled and walked out, holding 2 plates. Each had 2 Rujiamos on it. The bag was more of a hindrance for Habeng and Haga, so it was better to serve them on the plate directly. Of course, more importantly, it would save him some money this way. He could wash the dishes in the dishwasher. Bye, Mag, Mabai said with a smile and left. Mag, your food is very delicious. I don't want to go back, Habeng said to Mag as he picked up a Rujiamo and took a large bite. He felt the blood rushing inside his body. It was much better than drinking wine. He was enjoying his food, and his strength was increasing at the same time. There was nothing better than that. Mag smiled. It really felt good to be praised. Haga nodded in agreement. His common language wasn't very good, so he gave Mag a thumbs up. After a little while, Conti arrived with his black donkey, accompanied by clear hoofbeats. Looks like I can eat the new dish today. Mag, give me one please, Conti said to Mag with a smile after he took a look at the orc brothers who were wolfing down white bread. The tantalizing meat aroma had permeated the entire restaurant. Mag nodded, smiling. Sure. Please wait a moment. Then he walked back into the kitchen. Conti always kept his bright smile no matter whom he was talking to. Good morning, little owner, Conti said to Amy with a smile as he took his usual seat. Amy nodded. Good morning, Smiley Knight. He was smiling all the time, like he was wearing a smiling mask. Habang turned back and looked at Conti. This Laji Rigiamo is very good. Its taste is simply unbelievable, he said as he chewed. I highly recommend it. I'll try it then. Conti became more expectant. After a while, Mag came out, holding a craft bag. He passed it to Conti with a smile. Your Laji Rigiamo. Conti took it. The little girl's back caught his attention immediately. He smiled and looked up at Mag. Isn't this the little owner? Amy was leaning on the counter, a little bored, but when she heard what Conti had just said, her face lit up instantly. Really? She asked. Then she climbed down the chair, walked up to the table, and stood on the tips of her toes. She saw the back of a little girl. Father, is that Amy? Did you draw that? She asked, surprised. Mag nodded, smiling. Yes. It's Amy. Nothing could represent our restaurant better than Amy, he answered as he stroked her head. You're amazing, Father. It's really good, Amy said happily as she rubbed her head against his hand. The other three people gave a kind smile as they saw this. It was so emotional that it made them envious. The back of this cute half-elf girl would surely become well known in Chaos City. Conti took a look at his Rigiamo. The white bread was sliced open and stuffed with lean meat and fat. The name Rigiamo one was quite accurate. He had never seen any bread like this before. It was so unique. He opened his mouth and took a bite. The soft and chewy baiji bread and the soft and tender meat mixed together with the gravy. The splendid taste spread in his mouth, making him feel like he had risen to the next level. After he swallowed, Conti also let out a deep breath despite himself. Then he realized it and smiled at the others, a little embarrassed. To his surprise, his blood seemed to go wild shortly afterwards, and it was even wilder than after he practiced his sword for an hour in the morning. It was magical, like the young Joe fried rice, and regulated his body to the best shape. I'd like 2 more, Conti said as he looked up at Mag. The one in his hand was not finished. Mag nodded. Okay, please wait a second. He turned and went into the kitchen, feeling great. This Rigiamo's effect is a little violent, but it seems quite acceptable for now. Besides, it's fast to make and easy to take out. People can eat it anywhere. Maybe it could make the restaurant more popular. After they finished their meal, Haga turned his head and looked at Amy with a smile. Little owner, they check us, too, he said as he held up 2 fingers. Habeng's eyes brightened instantly. Brother, you're going to pay for me. He looked at Haga, surprised and happy. Finally, he has become that old, kind big brother again. Haga nodded, smiling. Amy walked over to him. You've had 12 Rigiamos, so that is 36 gold coins. Big Orc, are you going to pay for the meal today? Haga nodded with a smile. Ta. Take it out of that money. Amy nodded. Oh. She turned around. No money to collect. When does this end? I want to count coins, she sighed. You're indeed still my good old brother, Habeng said delightedly as he patted Hage's shoulder. I don't care about those 18 gold coins, I'm just happy that he is my old big brother again. Hage nodded, smiling. He fumbled the receipt out and put it on the table. I'm going back today. Take this receipt, it's yours now, he said in Orc language. Mine? Wait a minute, I lent you money to buy this receipt, and you've eaten several meals with this receipt these days. Now you say it's mine? Did I buy you this breakfast, or did you buy me? Habeng asked as he looked at Hage, a little confused. He found that his big brother's good image that he had just pictured was starting to crumble again. Hage thought for a moment and nodded. Consider it my treat. We used my receipt to buy it, no. Well, don't mind that now. Hage waved his hand. But why do you have to go back today? We have planned to stay here for a month. There are still many things to buy, and weapons are not ready yet. What's the rush? He asked as he looked at his brother, puzzled. The Stone Tribe has come looking for trouble to gold mines again. There was a small conflict the day before last, we lost 2 men, and a small mine was taken over by them. Father wants me back to retake it and to avenge our brothers. Hage's face became grave, his smile was gone, and for the first time, he was acting like an orc warrior. Those bastards have come back again. Seems they didn't learn enough last year. Brother, let me go back. I'll teach them a hard lesson. Habeng clenched his fist, his knuckles made a cracking sound, and a vein was throbbing in his forehead. Hage shook his head. No, you have to stay here. Weapons are crucial to us. You have to bring them home safely. Then he patted Habeng on the shoulder. Besides, your waist was wounded last year, and you've not recovered. Don't worry about fighting right now. I have fully recovered. I can smash their heads with my club. Look, then he rose from the table and tried to prove his point. Father said Marcus is leading the attack this time. You can't beat him. Besides, I'll kill him myself. Hage's face was a little grim. His fist clenched, and then slowly unclenched. He patted Habeng's shoulder, lifted his club, and walked towards the door. Habeng looked strange when he heard that name. Then I'll go with you, he said as he looked at his brother's back. Habeng shook his head. No. Just stay here and buy the things we need. I'll be back in several days and eat Mag's delicious food again. Then he turned back and smiled at Amy. Good, bye, little owner. Amy waved her hand. Bye, big orc. Then she climbed down the chair and went to whisper to her big egg. Damn Marcus, how dare he attack our tribe? Bastard, Habeng said as he ground his teeth together. He watched Hage leave and resumed his seat helplessly. A conflict between tribes? Mag took a look at Habeng. His predecessor could speak Orc language since humans' territory was bordering Orcs. Most of the feats he had achieved had been from fighting Orcs, so he could understand their language and speak it a little. As for Elf language, he was no stranger to it at all, otherwise, he wouldn't have married an elf princess. Mag was a little curious, but he didn't intend to ask. He was not the kind of man who liked asking personal questions, but he would listen if they wanted to talk. Mag, give me a plate of Yangzhou fried rice. Maybe the good food can make me feel better, Habeng said to Mag after sitting silent for a while. Right. Please wait a moment, Mag said. He cooked the fried rice quickly and put it gently before Habeng. Habeng picked up his spoon and put it down again. Mag, if one of your best friends accidentally killed your woman, would you kill him? Habeng asked, looking up at Mag. Mag inclined his head slightly. Maybe. Perhaps Hage didn't know how to deal with this kind of thing himself. Grace was my brother's fiancée, they grew up together. Marcus belongs to Stone Tribe, and is of the same age as my brother. We didn't have our gold mines yet and Stone Tribe was very close to us. Children from two tribes always played together. My brother was the chief of children from our tribe, and Marcus was the chief of their tribe's children. They often fought, and since they were well matched in strength, they became friends after fighting a few times. Then we found gold mines and became rich quickly. Everything changed afterwards. Stone tribe came to ask for gold mines, and my father agreed to give them 1 or 2 small ones to help them shake off poverty, but they wanted half, including the biggest one. Of course, we would never agree, and we didn't give them the small ones, either, so conflict started and has lasted more than a decade. There have been deaths on both sides. During one conflict, my brother and Marcus met on the field. They were both the strongest fighters among the younger generation in their respective tribes. They had never got the better of one another, and so it was that day. However, the stone tribe played dirty. They threw a stone knife to Marcus. Grace panicked and rushed out to help my brother. She got killed by the knife. Habang paused a moment as he gave a sigh. I've seen it, actually. Marcus intended to toss the knife aside and didn't see her. The flying knife pierced and killed her. Habang's story was short and plain, but made the listeners feel sympathy. It's a sad story, Mag said softly after a while. Habang nodded. Yes. I haven't seen Marcus in the Stone Tribe for many years. I never thought he would attack our gold mines. This time, my brother and he might settle it once and for all, he said with a mixture of feelings. He had always followed his brother and Marcus around when he was young. Marcus had been like a big brother to him. Now, because of the conflicts and Grace's death, they had become enemies. Anyway, they'll settle it sooner or later. I knew one of them would die when Grace was killed. Habang picked up his spoon again and ate some fried rice. Then, he said not a single word more. Mag, may I have the check? Conti asked as he smiled at Mag. Mag nodded, smiling. Sure. You've eaten 3 rigiamos. That is 9 gold coins. I'll take it out of your receipt. Thank you. Conti rose from the table, took his long sword, and patted Habang on the shoulder. Don't worry. He'll win. Thank you, Habang replied. Then, he went back to eating. Conti took a look in the direction of the counter. Seeing that Amy didn't intend to come out and say goodbye, he turned around and walked out, a little disappointed. Habang finished his fried rice and left with his club. Mag could feel his depression. After a while, more customers came. Some wanted to try the new dish when they were told of it. Its price was much lower than Yangzhou fried rices, but it was still very expensive. Mag had grown used to their weird sound and embarrassed look when they took the first bite. They carried on eating regardless. They couldn't resist it. The breakfast time of 1.5 hours passed swiftly. Mag walked to the door and turned over the sign. Then he cleared the plates, washed them with the dishwasher, and went to wipe tables. Father, come here. Is the ugly duckling going to hatch out? Amy cried out suddenly, her voice excited and surprised. Really? Mag was also a little surprised. He walked to the back of the counter and crouched down beside Amy. He heard rustling from the blanket-covered egg, only that the sound was much clearer and quicker this time, just as if the little creature was trying to get out. Amy, did you say something to it? Mag asked curiously. It seems the poor creature is very terrified. It is trying to get out. Amy nodded solemnly. Yes. I encouraged it. Mag's face became a little odd. Then how did you encourage it? Be good and come out, ugly duckling, or I'll set you on fire. I'm serious. Amy said seriously as she clenched her little fist. Mag couldn't help but chuckle. What kind of encouragement was that? It was totally a threat. No wonder the little thing is clawing at the shell strenuously. It must be horror-struck. Father, does it think I'm lying? Maybe that's why it doesn't come out after I said it so many times. Can I use my fire on it? Amy asked as she looked at Mag, not knowing what to do. It would be cooked if you set it on fire, Mag thought. Then, while Mag was thinking about how to tell Amy to be patient, the egg cracked. They froze for an instant, and then widened their eyes to look at the egg that had a small crack in it. "Come out quickly, ugly duckling. I know you're ugly, but I'm pretty." She stared at the big egg, full of expectation. She is just like the old me. Maybe she has inherited that from me. Mag looked at his little girl. She has a vicious tongue, and she has figured out how to do that all by herself. She is really talented. She was like a high-quality piece of uncut jade. He only needed to teach her a little bit. Between her cute appearance and her soft little voice, her vicious tongue would definitely choke others' words, but they couldn't get angry. He would feel wickedly cool. Mag had been brought here because of his vicious tongue, so he was restraining himself now. He only criticized the system at best, and looked at this world with forgiveness and love. Otherwise, he might be transferred to another world soon because this world and those different species offered so many things for him to criticize. He didn't want to leave Amy's side. Amy was different, though. She might have a vicious tongue, but people didn't hate her very much. They would forgive her in no time, so he didn't have to worry about that. Mag nodded slightly as he looked at Amy. "Looks like it's time I taught her how to use her vicious tongue." She had completely remembered the 9 times 9 table and was learning addition, subtraction, and easy multiplication of 2-digit numbers under the decimal system. She should be able to master the common calculations in everyday life soon. Amy was a quick learner. The crack in the shell extended, and one became many. It started from the top, and covered the whole egg in a short while. Mag was also gazing at it in excitement. "What will come out?" "It's an egg, and the nest was on a cliff, so it's most likely a bird. But it's so big, so it must be no ordinary bird. It might be some kind of monstrous bird. Ugly duckling, I'll count to 3. Then I'll set you on fire if you don't come out," Amy said with her big blue eyes. Her patience had worn out quickly. She held out her hand. Crack, with a soft sound, a fluffy little head with a piece of eggshell on it stuck out from the big egg. It looked around with its half-open eyes, confused and alarmed. At last, it looked at Amy. "Meow," it said softly. "An orange cat." Mag's eyes widened. The little creature which had a piece of eggshell on its little head was clearly an orange and white cat. Its eyes were not fully open, and there was some liquid on its fur. It studied Amy with its half-open eyes. "Such a cute little creature. Wow, it's so adorable." Amy blinked in surprise. She reached out her hand to touch it, but drew it back halfway. "Father, you said the ugly duckling would become a swan when it grew up. But why does it look nothing like a roast goose?" "It may not be an ugly duckling after all," Mag said with a strange look, gazing at the orange cat meowing at Amy. He had never seen such a weird thing before. A cat hatched out of an egg? Darwin would rise from the dead if he heard about this. But maybe the oviparous cat survived the natural selection and the viviparous cat didn't. It's not entirely unlikely, after all, it's a different world. 9 out of 10 orange cats were fat, and the remaining one was very fat. He had raised a dog and a cat in his previous life, and that cat was a very fat orange cat. Looking at the cute cat's half-open eyes and its palm-sized body, even Mag had half a mind to raise it. Hugging a cat was really pleasant. But it came from this ugly duckling's egg. It is an ugly duckling egg, right? Then it must be an ugly duckling. Amy nodded her head, quite certain. Then she looked at the little cat with dislike. "You're so ugly, and have 2 more legs. You can't swim, can you? I'll call you ugly duckling from now on. Maybe we can refer to it as Orange, or Little Orange, or Big Orange. What do you say?" Mag was trying to persuade her to change the name because he felt sorry for this little kitten. "No. Father, it's an ugly duckling. You can't change its name to whatever you want, Amy said seriously as she shook her head. Meow. The little orange cat shook its head in the shell, seemingly to show that it didn't like that name. Amy nodded, smiling. Yes. I know you like this name too, right? She removed that piece of shell on its head and said grimly, You will respond when I call you, ugly duckling. And I'll treat you well until you grow into a swan. Then, Amy swallowed despite herself. The little cat became obedient immediately. Meow, it said, nodding. Okay then, let's call it ugly duckling. Mag cast a sympathetic glance at the cat. Maybe she thinks those born out of eggs are most likely ugly ducklings. Besides, it's her pet. She can call it whatever she wants. But it won't grow into a swan. Amy's wish of eating it will probably go up in smoke. In fact, Mag seriously doubted that it was a normal orange cat. After all, that herb collector had found it on a cliff and reached there with a rope. It had no wings, though. He didn't know what it would become after it grew up. Then, a cute Totoro came into his mind all of a sudden. He shook his head. It had better not be that fat. It looked just like a little orange kitten right now. Maybe because it came from an egg, it looked to be 1 or 2 weeks old now. It grabbed the eggshell with 2 white paws, trying to get out. Since it was too small and didn't have enough strength, it pawed for a long time and failed. Now it was looking at Amy pitifully with its sapphire eyes and meowed like a helpless child. It seemed it was already relying on Amy. Fine, fine. Let me help you, Amy said impatiently, but she had already reached out her hands, planning to get it out. Wait, Amy. We have to clean it first, Mag said quickly. He went to fetch a clean towel and helped Amy get the kitten out. They wiped it clean and wrapped it up with the towel. Only its little head was left outside. It looked at Mag and Amy innocently. Father, it looks so delicious. Amy's face lit up as she watched the little cat in the towel. It looks like a cat roll. Mag wanted to chuckle too. They both were so cute. Immediately, the kitten became uneasy. It tilted its head back and said, Meow, meow. It was trying to get out. Ugly duckling, be good. I won't eat you now. Don't worry, Amy said with a smile as she stroked its little head. The anxious cat became calm in an instant and fell asleep quickly. Let it sleep. We need to prepare something for it to eat, Mag said to Amy, smiling. It seemed it had used a lot of strength to get out of its egg in a hurry. It would be hungry when it woke up. It's a real lazy bum. It has fallen asleep after only a stroke. Amy drew back her hand with dislike. Then what are we going to feed it? Rainbow fried rice, she asked as she looked at Mag. Mag shook his head. No. Newborn ugly duckling can't eat fried rice. We have to feed it sheep's milk or cow's milk. Let's go out and buy some for it. He had raised his orange cat from a little kitten, so he was very experienced. Suddenly, Mag remembered something, and asked in his mind, System, do you sell baby bottles? System doesn't supply goods for babies, the system replied seriously. I don't have a lot of cash right now, Mag said calmly. You'd better name a good price because it will be able to lick the milk from a plate after a few days. I don't really have to buy it. 1 high-quality baby bottle and you'll get a pet bib for free. Only 5 gold coins. This shining message went across Mag's head. 2 free pet bibs, Mag said after thinking about it. 1 high-quality baby bottle and 2 pet bibs are ready in the counter. Please check, the system said, and then it disappeared immediately. Mag opened the door and found a brand new baby bottle and 2 lovely pet bibs. They were just perfect for feeding the kitten. He didn't want to buy milk from the system, because he didn't know whether or not it would sell ingredients that were not included in the recipes. Even if it would, the milk would probably be very expensive. It might be produced by cows raised in some holy land. He didn't have much money now, and he had to save money to buy strength, so he couldn't spend money randomly. Amy nodded. Okay. She put Ugly Duckling back into the basket and softly covered it with the blanket. Then she stood up and took hold of Mag's hand. She walked a few steps and turned to look in the direction of the basket, a little worried. But, Father, what if it woke up when we went out? Would it be scared? I feel it looks on me as its mother. Mag shook his head, smiling. I don't think it will wake up soon, he said. It won't take long to buy some milk. Amy is pretty smart. She knows that she has earned its trust since it saw her first. It's the first time that she raises a pet. Even though she said some bad things about it, I can tell she likes it very much. Amy nodded. Then let's go now and come back early. She took Mag's hand and walked towards the door. Indeed, it didn't take them long to buy a bamboo jar of sheep's milk. Mag only spent 20 copper coins on it and got another bamboo jar for free, which made him wonder if he was a little greedy. As they walked past the magic potion shop on the way back, they teased black coal and green pea again. When they came back and opened the door, they heard the kittens cry. It sounded a little anxious. Don't be afraid, Ugly Duckling. You're so ugly, so you'll be safe even if you're alone, Amy said as she slid under Mag's arm and ran towards it. Her way of comforting it is really different. Smiling, Mag walked in and put the milk on the counter. The little towel was a mess now, and the kitten was staring at Amy with its two paws on the edge of the basket like an abandoned child, its eyes watering a pitiful sight. Okay, fine. We'll take you with us next time. You little troublemaker. Amy let out a sigh. She reached out and stroked its head, and it immediately stopped crying and narrowed its eyes, enjoying her stroking. Mag smiled. She is always talking about eating it, but since they live together, she will surely bond with it. He didn't want to tell her what she should do, because it was best if she could figure out by herself that friends and playmates were important. She had already turned black coal into her friend. She said she wanted to eat it simply because she had a little obsession with roast goose, and it was nothing more than that. Mag took the baby bottle from the counter and went into the kitchen. He put the nipple and tube into boiling water to kill the bacteria, then, he poured some milk into the clean bottle and warmed the bottle with some warm water. He dripped some on the back of his hand to test the temperature, put the lid on the jar, placed it in the fridge, and walked out with the baby bottle. Mag crouched down beside her. What is this, Father? Amy asked curiously as she watched the bottle in Mag's hand. The sheep's milk is in a transparent bottle that has a soft thingy on it. What's it for? She thought. Meow. Ugly Duckling saw the bottle too. It must have smelled the milk. Its eyes were shining, and it was licking its lips. Apparently, it was starving. This is a baby bottle. It's for feeding babies and baby animals. Like this. Mag smiled and put the nipple to the cat's mouth. The pleasant smell of the milk and its own instinct drove it over to the nipple, and it sucked on it happily. The white sheep milk flowed from the corner of its mouth and dropped on its white hair on the chest. It really liked it. The sugar content is relatively low in sheep's milk, and Ugly Duckling is like a 1 to 2 weeks old kitten, and it's a wild one, so it should be able to digest sheep's milk, Mag thought. If it doesn't work, I'll buy formula from the system. It may not be very cheap, though. Amy's eyes brightened. It's so interesting. Father, can I feed it? She asked expectantly. Sure. But don't dirty it, because it is too small to be washed now. So, we have to wear a pet bib around its neck. Mag handed the bottle to Amy and took out a flower-patterned bib from the counter. He had wanted to remove the bottle first and then tie the bib, but the little thing seemed to have read his mind. It sucked on the nipple tight. Mag had no choice but to make Amy lift the bottle up and then tie it on while it was still drinking. Well, I'll leave it to you then. This bottle of milk should be enough. I'll go prepare the ingredients for lunch, Mag said as he looked at Amy, who was carefully feeding the kitten with the bottle in her 2 hands. Amy nodded. Okay. Don't worry, father. Then she watched Ugly Duckling as it was enjoying its milk. Is it that good? She muttered, wondering. It seemed like Ugly Duckling had understood her words. It nodded while suckling. Mag went into the kitchen and washed his hands, then, he took out several pieces of meat from the fridge, cut them into large chunks, and put them in a large jar to marinate. The meat was the most important. Last night, he had marinated enough meat for today and tomorrow, and it would be perfect by tomorrow morning. Now he had to marinate the meat for the day after tomorrow to make sure it had the best texture, and that his Rigiamo's taste was consistent as well as delicious. When Mag had finished, he went to check Amy's feeding job, and found Amy sitting on the ground, holding the bottle in her hands and suckling happily. Leaning on the edge of the basket, Ugly Duckling looked up at Mag, and then at Amy, who was drinking its milk. Tears were welling up in its eyes. You can never leave the feeding job to a little foodie. Now she has robbed the kitten of its milk. Mag made a sour smile. Amy, why are you drinking Ugly Duckling's milk? It has nothing to drink now. Because I was afraid it would be too much for it, so I helped it out. She took another suck and turned to look at the kitten. Right, Ugly Duckling. Meow, Ugly Duckling cried out reluctantly. It gave Mag a sad look and wagged its little tail. This pet cat has no say in anything at all, Mag thought as he looked at it wagging its tail. The fat cat he had raised in his previous life would barely eat meat even if he put it near its mouth. Do you like sheep's milk? Mag asked as he watched Amy drinking the milk. Amy nodded vigorously. Yes, I love it. She never let the nipple out even when she spoke. Mag nodded, smiling. Then next time we'll buy some for you too. The calcium in it will help you grow tall. Seldom had Amy had sheep's milk before. Mag was too preoccupied with the restaurant these days to notice this. He bought another baby bottle from the system. It couldn't be helped, after all, Amy and Ugly Duckling couldn't share one bottle. He warmed half a bottle of milk for the kitten and poured half a bottle for Amy. Looking at the two little things suckling cheerfully, Mag's heart felt warm. He had one more family member now. Suddenly, the system's voice sounded in Mag's head. New mission, sell 1000 Laji Rigiamos in 10 days. After the mission is completed, you'll be able to unlock a new recipe tofu pudding. So far, you've sold 48. 1,000, again. How original. System, you can do better than that. Mag curled his lip. Actually, he had recognized the difference, he had to sell 1000 Rigiamos this time. The system had learned after his crowdfunding strategy last time. The reason I set this number for you is to make you popularize the restaurant as soon as possible. Don't play games with me. You have to study hard, run the restaurant carefully, and get on the right path to becoming the god of cookery, the system said seriously. Fine. The mission isn't very difficult. But I'm curious, is this tofu pudding sweet or savory? Mag asked concernedly. There were many people who preferred the sweet tofu pudding, and just as many who preferred it savory. Their argument dated a long time back. There were also a few people who liked the spicy tofu pudding, but their presence was hardly noticed. Whenever a discussion took place, the sweet tofu pudding people and the savory ones would start a holy war to decide the one authentic taste of the tofu pudding. They really hated each other. Being a firm advocate of the savory tofu pudding, Mag would certainly choose the savory. Sprinkle some chopped jacai, papery dried shrimp, wood ear mushrooms, and garlic onto the tender tofu pudding, and then add some soy sauce. It's heaven on earth if you can get such a bowl of hot savory tofu pudding in winter. What the heck is sweet tofu pudding? Mag had nothing against people who preferred the sweet tofu pudding, but he hated it when restaurants only sold the sweet tofu pudding. Once in his previous life, he had gone to eat in a pretty famous restaurant. It had been a cold day in winter, he had wanted to eat some hot tofu pudding to warm his body, but had been told only the sweet flavor was available. He didn't use his usual vicious tongue that time. Instead, he took a good picture of the restaurant's signboard, gave a clear indication of its location, and added a super appetizing picture of the savory tofu pudding. He then said on his microblog, "It feels really good to have a bowl of delicious savory tofu pudding in cold winter." That was the first positive feedback he had given, and he had millions of fans. His comment even made the top searches for a few minutes. Later he heard the owner of that restaurant added the savory flavor to the menu because many savory tofu pudding people became angry when they went there and found only the sweet flavor available. He heard that restaurant's customers had tripled after that. However, the owner was a sweet tofu pudding person, and he lost his faith. People said that he sold his restaurant at a high price and opened a bar. Now Mag felt it was quite reasonable for him to be transported to this world. As a savory flavor person, of course, Mag wanted to sell the savory tofu pudding. This way, he could satisfy himself as well as make the savory tofu pudding well known in this world. Suddenly, Mag realized a serious problem. Which would Amy like? The savory or the sweet flavor? He took a look at Amy, who was holding the bottle drinking happily, and then frowned. She might have inherited my preference. But if not, which does her mother like? You will unlock both flavors, the system replied after a while. Mag nodded. That will be fine. Now he was a little worried that Amy would prefer the sweet flavor. But even if that was the case, he could do nothing. After all, she was his daughter. He would forgive her and those who preferred the sweet tofu pudding. Besides, he was not a customer anymore, but an owner. If he only sold the savory flavor, those who favored the sweet tofu pudding wouldn't be very pleased. Although tofu pudding might not exist in this world, he liked it when his customers were enjoying his food. He felt most satisfied every time he saw them smile. Mag nodded slightly. Right. I'll complete the mission ASAP. Then he hesitated for a moment, and asked tentatively, but I want to have some savory tofu pudding now. Can we do pre-sales this time? A very long ellipsis went across Mag's head. Take your mission seriously. Show some respect, the system shouted, and its voice was almost like a roar, accompanied by some electrical noise. All right, all right. I hear you, loud and clear. If he could cover his ears in his head, he would have done it. He had never thought that the system had such a short temper. Actually, he wasn't very serious about the idea of pre-sales. Now, the most important thing was to make his restaurant well known. Obviously, Rugiemo was his best solution, since it was fast to make and easy to take out. He would focus on selling Rugiemos for a few days. Mag took a look at the two little things drinking the sheep milk happily and went into the kitchen. As he watched the milk on the cooking bench, he suddenly remembered that in his previous life, the unprocessed fresh sheep milk didn't taste very good, but his daughter and the kitten were really enjoying it. Out of curiosity, he poured himself some in a bowl and took a sip. Mag's eyes brightened instantly. This sheep's milk was thick, tasty, and a little sour. The sourness didn't affect its taste, but instead stimulated Mag's appetite. He finished his half bowl of milk in no time, and the aftertaste of the milk remained in his mouth after he swallowed. This sheep's milk was much better than the processed cow milk and sheep milk in his previous life. No wonder the two little things liked it that much. This world's sheep's milk was very different. Looks like I need to buy a jar of sheep milk every day from tomorrow onwards. Mag put the lid on the jar and placed it in the fridge again. All three of them were really in need of nutrients right now. A jar of milk a day would do some good to their body. Now that Amy had acquired a new playmate, she smiled more often now. Amy gave it a stroke after it finished eating, and it fell asleep again. She took it to its basket with dislike. During lunch, Amy cradled Ugly Duckling in her arms. It looked up at Amy and meowed as she was eating Yangzhou fried rice. It seemed it wanted to eat it too. Father, can we feed it rainbow fried rice? Amy asked as she had understood its intention. Mag shook his head. No. Maybe when it's bigger and has teeth. It was just a newborn kitten, it couldn't even eat baby food, let alone fried rice. Meow, Ugly Duckling seemed to have understood Mag's words. It bared its several milk teeth and meowed at him. Mag looked at its teeth with surprise. This world's oviparous cat is truly different. It has teeth on the first day of birth. Then he looked closely and shook his head. The teeth are too small. You have to wait a few days. Meow. Ugly Duckling lowered its head in frustration. It lay in Amy's arms and shrugged, seeming to be a little upset. It's no use getting angry. We won't let you eat it. But if you really want to eat it, Amy watched as Ugly Duckling raised its head slowly, and then she brought a spoon of fried rice to her mouth, smiling. You can watch me eat. Ugly Duckling burst into tears immediately. It lay in Amy's arms, motionless and expressionless. Mag shook his head with a smile. Just looking at them was enough to make him happy. After lunch, Mag cleared the table and warmed 2 bottles of milk for them. Now, Amy didn't have to rob Ugly Duckling of its food. I'll make the restaurant full of customers someday, and this impactful La Giragiamo is a start. Mag thought with a smile as he opened the door. When Mag opened his door, a young man who had been waiting outside looked up at him immediately. Mag, I heard your restaurant has a new dish today? I was pretty busy, but I have left my shop to my employees and come here to try it, he said expectantly. He had short, blonde hair. Mag nodded, smiling. Yes. But it's only a trial sale today. This young man was called Prol Musen, aged around 28, and also owned a shop on the Aden Square. He sold fragrant incense, which was brought here from the faraway capital of the Roth Empire. His commodities had won the favor of women from many species. He had 5 employees, and business was good for him. When he walked around here yesterday morning, he came across this fancy restaurant. He felt he had found his way after a plate of Yangzhou fried rice, so he ate his lunch and dinner here too. He'd also brought his 2 neighbors here when he'd come in the evening. He didn't come for breakfast this morning. Perhaps he had heard from his friends that Mag's restaurant had launched a new dish, so he came early and waited outside. Then I'd like one, please. But what's this new dish exactly? Prol asked curiously as he walked in. It's called La Giragiamo, Mag replied with a smile. La Giragiamo? What is it? Prol frowned. I know what roe, meat, and mo, bread, are, but they can be put together and become a dish? He remembered that when he'd asked Mag what Yangzhou fried rice meant, the latter had only said that Yangzhou was a very beautiful place. Looks like Mag has just named his dishes randomly. But, he is such a talented cook that he can make such delicious food, and my understanding of good food has been completely torn apart, Prol thought, and took a seat. Mag nodded. Please wait a second. He went towards the kitchen. When he walked past the counter, he saw Amy was crouching, stroking Ugly Duckling's back hair ceaselessly. Cats are indeed very addictive, especially cute small ones. Even Amy can't resist it. Mag had already prepared the baiji bread and stewed meat beforehand. He took a loaf of bread from the oven, sliced it open, stuffed the chopped meat inside, and added some gravy. Then he put it in a bag, walked out of the kitchen, and handed it to Prol. Your La Giragiamo, Mag said, smiling. Prol took it. Smells great. The meat aroma really intrigued him, it was more impactful than Yangzhou fried rice. He swallowed in spite of himself. The craft bag was clean and exquisite, with a cute half-elf's back on it. He remembered Mag had a lovely half-elf daughter, but he hadn't expected that he would use her back as a trademark. He is very brave and interesting, a good father. He did business with all the species, so he knew very well the difficult position the hybrids were in. As a businessman, Prol didn't discriminate, besides, Mag's little girl was so cute that every customer liked her. Is she not here today? Prole took his mind off them and looked at the aromatic food in the bag. A whole loaf of white bread was sliced open and stuffed with appetizing meat. So that's how it got its name. Is this meat called la gyro? Wondering, Prole couldn't resist its aroma. He opened his mouth and took a bite, full of expectations. The delicious taste practically burst out in his mouth right away. The tasty gravy stimulated his every taste bud, making him feel most satisfied. While the young Joe fried rice was gentle like a sweet spring, this Rigiamo was much more violent, just like strong liquor. It had turned into a hot current, making his blood pumping. Ah! Prole opened his eyes immediately and let out a sigh of admiration. He felt his blood pumping like he had felt when he'd first bared his heart to the girl next door. He was young, and he felt he had retrieved his vitality. He always kept his smile while doing business with different species. He had even forgotten what a genuine smile should be like. Now, he felt he had found the urge to smile again. The food was so delicious that it made him feel good and want to smile. Prole took another bite, and another, and he kept his happy smile all the while. He came to this chaos city at 17 and started as a petty worker. He crawled, cried, failed, and won. At last, he'd gained a foothold here and opened his own shop on this Aden Square. 10 years had passed. He had long forgotten what he'd looked like when he'd first come here. Years of comfort seemed to have made him forget that he had dreamed of opening 10 shops and becoming somebody when he first came here and laid his eyes on this grand, vast Aden Square. After he finished his Rigiamo, Prole looked up at Mag all of a sudden. "Mag, I think I'll open a second shop," he said, smiling. Mag nodded with a smile. "Good for you." He didn't know why he had said that, but it seemed the Rigiamo had given him strength, and he liked it. "Please give me another one. I'm sure this blood-pumping food will be popular all over the city," Prole said with certainty. Mag nodded. "Thank you. Please wait a moment." Then he went into the kitchen and made another one. Slowly, Prole finished his second one. He fumbled out a purse from his clothes. "Mag, I'd like to buy 5 more for my employees," he said as he looked at Mag. Mag shook his head slightly. "Today's Rigiamos are only samples. Each customer can only buy 3 at most." The trial sale had been meant to draw some attention and make preparations for the official sale tomorrow, so he didn't make a lot. Prole nodded. He was a businessman himself, so he could understand. "Oh, I see. I'll buy 1, then. One boy's father has passed away, he is feeling a little down. Hope your food will give him some strength and cheer him up." Mag watched as Prole walked out. He collected the gold coins on the table. Then another customer came. "Mag, a new dish has come out today, right? What's that aromatic thing in that man's hand?" he asked. Mag had prepared more than 30 loaves of bread for lunch, and they sold out in a little while. The aroma of meat really whetted many customers' appetite. They asked Mag to make some more. However, there was nothing he could do. He had only prepared that many, so those who came first would be served first. He needed at least 2 hours to knead the dough and stew the meat. It was not like the young Joe fried rice, which only took him several minutes to make a plate of. Customers were interested in the exquisite bag too. One even said he would use it as a little money bag. They thought the drawing on the back was extremely cute. Their compliments made Amy elated. By dinner time, more people had heard about this and more customers came. The young Joe fried rice and Rigiamo made them crazy. They were cooked in a unique way, but their taste was intoxicating. They had completely subverted their concept of food. To be sure, they were expensive, but Chaos City was never short of wealthy people. They wouldn't mind spending some gold coins to treat themselves to a decent meal. "Sorry. Today is only a trial sale, and we've sold out. We'll start serving it officially tomorrow. But since it takes time to prepare, the quantity for each meal is limited. Come back early tomorrow if you can." Mag showed the last customer out with a smile and turned over the sign. He breathed a sigh of relief. Although he had eaten Yangzhou fried rice and rujiamo, he felt a little tired after a long day. He had sold more than 90 rujiamos today. The number of plates of Yangzhou fried rice he had sold, because of rujiamo, was a little less than before, over 50 plates. In total, he'd made more than 360 gold coins of profit today. He needed to wake up early tomorrow to knead more dough to make more bread. He had to sell 1,000 rujiamos to unlock the tofu pudding. Now that he was an owner of a restaurant, he decided to take no part in the conflict between the savory tofu pudding people and the sweet ones anymore. He was a little curious, though. Will the people here be like the people in my previous life? Will some be into the savory flavor and others the sweet flavor? Hope they can get along well. If not, maybe they would duel every day in a ring if there were one outside the restaurant. Amy's voice interrupted his thoughts. Father, you must be very tired. Let me massage your shoulders, Amy said to him, holding Ugly Duckling in her arms. Meow, meow, said Ugly Duckling, seeming to agree with Amy. Mag looked at the two lovely things and then stroked Amy's head. Don't worry. Father is not tired. Sit there and wait for me. If you feel sleepy, go wash up and sleep, he said, shaking his head. Amy shook her head. No. I'll wait for you today. Then she gave Ugly Duckling's head a stroke. Right, Ugly Duckling. Meow, Ugly Duckling said with a yawn. It nodded in agreement, but its unwillingness was written all over its face. Mag nodded, smiling. Then I'll hurry up. He cleared the plates, wiped all the tables clean, and mopped the floor. By the time he was done, a half of an hour had passed. Amy was sitting on the long-legged chair, half asleep, and Ugly Duckling was already out in her arms. Mag untied his apron, hung it up, dried off his hands, and walked over to Amy. Put it in the basket, we'll go upstairs and sleep, he said in a soft voice as he stroked Amy's hair. Amy nodded. Okay. Meow, Ugly Duckling seemed to have heard him. It woke up and gave Mag a sullen look. Then it shook its head as it held Amy's dress with its little pink paws and didn't want to leave. Amy shook her head. No, Ugly Duckling. Father said you have to sleep here in your basket. Then she picked it up and held it against her chest. Besides, you're so ugly, if I woke up and saw your face in the middle of the night, I might kick you out of the bed in fright, she said as she left the chair. Mag couldn't help but laugh. It seemed she didn't need to be taught by him, she was born with a vicious tongue. Meow, meow, said Ugly Duckling, trying to prove it was not that ugly. But Amy shoved it into the little basket and covered it with the blanket. Then she stood up. Ugly Duckling, go to sleep, I'll play with you tomorrow if you behave, she said as she waved her hand. Then she took Mag's hand and was about to go upstairs. Meow, 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 Ugly Duckling slipped out from under the little blanket quickly. It put its little paws on the edge of the basket and cried sadly like a deserted little cat as it watched Amy's back. Amy stopped her feet and glanced back at the kitten that was about to cry. Father, it seems scared. Can we take it upstairs? I'll try not to kick it out of the bed, Amy asked as she looked up at Mag. Mag took a look at the pitiful kitten and then at the expectant Amy. These two little things were so adorable that he couldn't resist their double cuteness attack. He had no choice but to nod. All right. Let's take it upstairs. Yes. Amy smiled delightedly, but when she turned around, she hid her smile and picked up the kitten with a sour face. You're so difficult. Cover your face tonight. Don't try to scare me. She sighed. Meow, meow, Ugly Duckling said happily. Then it positioned itself comfortably in Amy's arms, rubbed its little head against her chest, and closed its eyes in contentment. When they were upstairs, Amy put the sleeping kitten on one side of her little bed and carefully put its little head on the pillow. Then she went to wash up with Mag. Mag helped Amy take a bath, bought another cute bluish-violet set of sleepwear for her from the system, dried off her hair, and carried her to the little bed. As soon as she lay down, Ugly Duckling reached out its little paws and held her arm, putting its little head against her arm too. "You're so heavy." Amy pushed it away impatiently. "Good night, father," she said softly as she looked at Mag, yawning. "Night." Mag stroked her hair with a smile, and she fell asleep quickly. Ugly Duckling approached her again in sleepiness and still wanted to hold her arm and press its face against her. Mag shook his head, smiling. "Such a clingy little thing." He tucked them in, turned off the light, took his sleepwear, and went to take a bath quietly. After the bath, Mag lay on his bed comfortably. "System, I think we need something special on the menu. Whether the Yangzhou fried rice or the Rigiamo, they are not exactly a main dish," Mag said in his mind. Yangzhou fried rice was good, and so was Rigiamo, but eating them every day was kind of boring. He knew he would get access to the tofu pudding after this new mission, but he still wanted to trick the system into unlocking one or two other dishes. "Since you didn't take your last mission seriously and used a shortcut, you have triggered a hidden mission: get 1,000 customers to eat in the restaurant, and then you can unlock the recipe for the braised chicken and rice. You have 15 more days. Each individual will be counted as one customer. If you fail the mission, your strength will be decreased by 0.5. You have got 155 customers by now," the system said after a while. "That means I have to get 845 different customers eating here in 15 days? Mag raised an eyebrow. It was much more difficult than selling 1,000 Rigiamos. After all, some customers could eat several Rigiamos each time, and there were regulars. One man might buy a dozen in a few days. However, getting 1,000 different customers was another matter entirely. If he could do that, his restaurant would definitely be filled with customers. Unfortunately, he had only attracted 155 customers since his business had started. If he failed this hidden mission, his strength would be decreased. That was a real problem for him. He wasn't worrying about business now, but about regular customers. New customers might not be able to get the food because of regulars, and that would end up with a slowdown in the new customers' growth in number. Eat in the restaurant are the key words. It would seem I have to control the takeout quantity. I have to get some publicity and at the same time try to meet the needs of customers, Mag thought, and his eyes lit up when he thought about the braised chicken and rice. Braised chicken and rice, Lanzhou beef noodles, and Shaxian delicacies were perhaps China's 3 largest restaurant chains. In his previous life, Mag had tried some authentic braised chicken and rice in several restaurants. Although, as always, he had engaged in vicious criticism, the taste had been truly excellent. The chicken had been very fresh and tender, the broth had been very tasty. After he finished eating the chicken, he had added a bowl of rice into the pot and made some delicious chicken-flavored rice. Now that he thought about it, he found that he had been indeed too picky. His face became sour when he remembered his vicious comments. Damn it! Even if I finish the mission and get the recipe, I have to be prepared, because I may have to spend hundreds of days in the test field. Everything gets a return. Mag complained the god who had devised such a cooking standard in his mind and then fell asleep quickly. The next morning, he was awakened by Amy's voice. He turned on the bedside lamp, sat up, and looked towards Amy's small bed. Amy was sitting on her bed, seeming to have just awakened too. She rubbed her sleepy eyes and looked around. "Father, where is Ugly Duckling?" she asked as she looked at Mag, confused. Mag was surprised. Didn't it fall asleep on Amy's arm? Meow. The sound was a little unhappy, and came from under the bed. Amy and Mag looked under the bed at the same time. They didn't know when it got there. It was looking up at Amy sadly like a young wife that had been kicked out of bed. Its eyes looked awfully sad. Amy laughed. "Ugly Duckling, did I kick you out of bed?" she asked merrily as she lay on her stomach on the edge of the bed. Ugly Duckling nodded as if it had understood her words. Now it looked even more aggrieved. It lifted its little paw, seeming to ask for hugs. Mag smiled too and felt a little sorry for it. Amy gave a shrug. I told you that you might be kicked out and you didn't believe me. You'd better sleep in your little basket next time. Then she looked at Mag, and asked, Father, do we need to get up now? She yawned. Mag took a look at the clock. It was only 4:50. He got out of his bed, picked up the palm-sized, soft ugly duckling, and put it onto the little bed. It's too early, he said with a smile, shaking his head. You two go back to sleep. I'll prepare the ingredients. Amy nodded. Then I'll sleep some more. She held Ugly Duckling's head as it was trying to climb into her arms. Ugly Duckling, don't claw at my clothes. They were newly bought by Father. If you ruin them, I won't allow you to come onto the bed again. Ugly Duckling stopped moving immediately and nodded. Meow, then it closed its eyes on the comfort of the quilt. Amy nodded, satisfied. Good. She lay back on the bed, closed her eyes, and fell asleep again. Smiling, Mag tucked her in and covered the little kitten with the quilt better. Body temperature was very important to it. Mag changed into his clothes, washed up, and went downstairs to prepare ingredients for Rigiamo. This morning, he planned to make 4 batches of bread, 64 Rigiamos. He should be able to sell them out in 1.5 hours of the breakfast time. At 7 a.m., Mag went upstairs and woke Amy up. When she washed up, she insisted on brushing Ugly Duckling's teeth. Mag chuckled and explained for a long time to talk her out of it. At last, she threatened it into rinsing its mouth for a few times. Amy nodded as she was brushing her teeth. Okay. We'll brush your teeth when they grow bigger, she said as she watched Ugly Duckling lick its lips and swallow. Ugly Duckling stared at the little brush and foam in Amy's mouth and slowly stepped back towards the door. It was a little scared. The sheep milk Mag had bought yesterday was already finished. He didn't have time to buy any until the breakfast time was over. During breakfast, lying in Amy's arms, Ugly Duckling watched as Mag and Amy ate Rigiamo and Young Joe fried rice, its eyes glittering. As no one wanted to feed it, it sadly covered its eyes with its paw, trying to block the torturous sight. Amy took a bite of her Rigiamo. Ugly Duckling, I can see your eyes through your paw. You can watch if you want, but we won't give it to you, she said as she looked down at it, smiling. Ugly Duckling averted its eyes, removed its little paw, and looked up, expressionless. Mag shook his head with a smile. After breakfast, he cleared the table and then opened his restaurant at 7:30. As always, Mabai came here first, waiting outside, but behind Mabai, he found several others lining up spontaneously. Their faces lit up when Mag opened the door, several smiled, and said, "Good morning, Mag." Mag was a little surprised. It looked like his trial sale yesterday was pretty successful. Customers had lined up outside his restaurant in the early morning. Mag smiled and nodded. He turned over his open sign and turned sideways to let them in. Mabai came in first. "Mag, seems like I have to come here earlier from now on. Maybe the line will reach the other end of the square someday," he said, smiling. "I'll have 2 plates of Young Joe fried rice. Rigiamo is more for violent young men." Mag nodded. "Okay. Please wait a section. Mag, I'd like 1 plate of the new dish." "What's it called again?" asked the small-eyed man that followed Mabai in. He took a seat. "It's called Laggi Rigiamo. You can find it on the menu," Mag replied with a smile. The system had added the new dish and its price onto the menu and saved Mag a lot of trouble. In addition to that, on the back of the menu, Mag had asked the system to put down 2 rules in gold letters: A. No yelling in the restaurant, B. Cash only, no credit allowed. As for other rules, he decided to add them later. After all, he didn't know what he would encounter running a restaurant in this world. He decided to make new rules when new problems appeared. A comfortable dining environment was a basic rule, nobody liked to be disturbed when enjoying their meal. He only accepted cash because he didn't want to collect debts. He was running this restaurant to make money and give Amy and himself a better life. His restaurant was not a charitable organization. Only people who were good to them like Luna didn't have to pay once in a while, surely others had to pay. The ingredients cost a lot, and Mag was in an urgent need of money, so he wouldn't provide meals free. I'd like 1 Rigiamo, no, 2. I have wanted to try it when I walked past here and watched them eat last night, a fat man said, and seated himself. They all walked in and some looked at the menu. Since Rigiamo only cost half as much as Young Joe fried rice, they all ordered Rigiamo first. After Mag took everyone's orders, he turned around and went into the kitchen. The loaves of baiji bread were lying ready inside the oven, and the stewed meat was well cooked, so he only needed to stuff the meat into the bread to make a Rigiamo. "Good morning, Dwarf Grandpa Mabai," Amy said as she sat on a long-legged chair, holding Ugly Duckling in her arms. She also exchanged greetings with other customers that she had met these days, but she referred to them by odd nicknames. For instance, she called the small-eyed man Squint-eyed Man, and the fat one Big Squint-eyed Man because his eyes were narrowed by his fat to a squint, but he was bigger, so she called him Big Squint-eyed Man to distinguish him from the small-eyed man. With regard to Amy's strange way of nicknaming them, customers had no choice but to accept their nicknames with a smile. After all, Mag's cooking was so good, and the little girl was so adorable they were unable to get mad at all. Mabai nodded, smiling. "Morning, little owner." Then he noticed Ugly Duckling's little head in Amy's arms. "What's that?" "A cat?" he asked curiously. The other customers also looked at the little bundle in Amy's arms with curiosity. It was fluffy, like a cat, and had orange and white hair, very cute. They had only seen solid-colored cats before, and most of them were white or black. They had never seen such a strange-colored cat in their life. Ugly Duckling looked over the customers with its sapphire eyes out of curiosity. It had almost slept a whole day yesterday, so it was seeing that many people for the first time. Seeing that they were all staring at it, it bared its teeth and growled by instinct. Amy shook her head. "No, it's an ugly duckling." She gave the ugly duckling's head a press. "Stop, ugly duckling. Don't disturb the customers," she said. "Meow." Ugly Duckling stopped obediently and lay comfortably in Amy's arms again. It yawned, cast a glance at them from the corner of its eye, and closed its eyes to sleep again, ignoring them all. They felt they had been disdained by a cat, and the looks on their faces became a little strange, but they couldn't get mad at a little girl, let alone at a cat. An ugly duckling. They were a little confused when they heard Amy's words. They didn't have the slightest clue why this cute kitten was an ugly duckling. However, on second thought, they found it quite reasonable since it was Amy who had named it, and Amy nicknamed people at random and had a vicious tongue. Maybe it was its fate to have that name because its master was Amy. Mag walked out with their Rigiamos while they were waiting expectantly. It was much faster to cook. Then he went back into the kitchen to make Young Joe fried rice. Mabai didn't mind. He had come here first, but he was willing to wait a little longer for good food. The small-eyed man took a sniff of the Rigiamo and took a bite. The tasty food raged in his mouth. After he swallowed, it seemed like something inside his blood was trying to get out. Despite himself, he closed his eyes and let out a long, satisfied sound, happiness written all over his face. The fat man, Harrison, glanced at the small-eyed man. He is too easily impressed. He cast a disdainful look at him. I'm pretty expectant about this Rigiamo too, but I won't react so exaggeratedly like him. He opened his mouth and took a large bite. His eyes widened in an instant. The tasty gravy seeped out as he bit into the well-cooked meat, and blended with the soft, sweet baiji bread. The food was so delicious that he felt the fat all over his body was shaking as if it were cheering and dancing in excitement. One could tell from his body shape that he was very fond of eating. His family owned 3 banks, so he never worried about money. He once had had a huge spread that was worth hundreds of gold coins in the capital of the Roth Empire. Various precious ingredients had been cooked into tasty dishes, and he had thought those were the most delicious things in this world. Now it seemed those were almost inedible compared to this bite of Ruggiemo. Their taste had been so heavily dependent on spices and seasonings that they were no match for such delicious gravy. Even the white bread outside was so sweet and tasty. More surprisingly, after he swallowed, he felt as if he had drunk some strong liquor. The taste wasn't strong, though. His blood was beginning to pump as if it became violent all of a sudden. He felt his fat was burning and shaking slightly. A sheen of sweat covered his brow. Ah, the fat man couldn't refrain from letting out a satisfied sound, and his was much louder than the small-eyed man's. He opened his eyes immediately. How can something be this good in this world? Mag, you must be a genius, he said to Mag as he walked out with a plate of Yangzhou fried rice. Mag, your Ruggiemo is very delicious, and can help me lose weight at that. Harrison's excitement was partially because of the tasty food, and partially due to the feeling he felt after he swallowed it. His fat was slightly shaking as blood was pumping through his veins. He felt his fat was burning more violently than when his father forced him to practice with his sword. What did this mean? It meant if such a delicious thing was able to help lose weight, then that would be good news for the obese. It was each and every foodie's dream to lose weight while wolfing down tasty food, but nobody had ever heard of the existence of such food. Now, it seemed such food had appeared, and he had just eaten it. He could feel very strongly and clearly that his blood was rushing, and that his fat was burning. Although I can't lose a lot of weight all of a sudden, one Ruggiemo still has almost the same effect as practicing with my sword for half an hour. Maybe I can lose weight by eating several of these every day instead of practicing with a sword, he thought. Harrison became more excited when he thought about this. He didn't feel ashamed of his fat body, but it was quite natural for him to want to lose some weight. After all, he knew too well the uncomfortable feeling of panting after only a few steps. He had several friends who were more or less in the same situation as him. They hung out together, eating and drinking a lot. They were fat too, just like him. He had planned to bring them here in a couple of days and show them what real delicious food was like. Now that he had felt the fantastic effect of this Ruggiemo, he felt like bringing them here sooner. It's so good and can help lose weight. Perhaps only a genius like Mag can pull this off. Mag watched the sweating Harrison, whose fat was still slightly shaking, and accepted his praise with a smile. He was also a little surprised, though. Apparently, Ruggiemo has a stronger effect on fatter people. Look at the shaking speed of his fat. If it could help lose weight, that would be great. Maybe this point alone is enough to ignite a surge in the sales of Ruggiemo, Mag thought. But the system said the frenzy elements in the pork would only affect the blood. Then why fat is being burnt now? Mag was a little confused. Severely obese people's veins would be pressed by fat, the system explained. So, to an extent, the rushing blood would exercise the fat inside and around the veins and thus can help lose weight. But this effect stops when the blood flow is normal again, so it doesn't have much effect on moderately obese people. The main benefit of this Ruggiemo lies in its ability to stimulate the blood. It cannot be used to lose weight. Now Mag understood. No wonder he and Amy didn't react like Harrison. Still, this effect was good news for severely obese people. Even if they couldn't become lean by eating this Ruggiemo, at least they could become much healthier. After System's explanation, Mag looked at Harrison, and said, "This losing weight effect may only be effective until your body returns to normal. If you want to lose weight, dieting and exercising is still the best way." This selling point would certainly popularize his Ruggiemo very fast, but there might be problems if it was not as effective as customers had expected. The taste alone was worth the price, and these extra effects came free. Mag's Ruggiemo was so unique that even if there were knockoffs, he didn't have to worry about his business. Harrison nodded. "Oh. He took a look at the small-eyed lean man and found that his face became rosy and refreshed, and that he indeed wasn't reacting the way he was. Then he thought on it and nodded with a smile. Normal is good enough for me. Now I can't do anything in this shape. I can't even walk a few steps without breathing heavy. I'll bring my friends here tomorrow. They will love this Rugiemo. Please give me another too. Mag nodded, smiling. Sure. Please wait a moment. Customers' friends were more than welcome now. He had to sell a large quantity of Rugiemos and also reach the goal of getting 1,000 customers, which was not a small number. Other customers also picked up their Rugiemos and took a bite. They all showed a happy smile and let out a strange sound as they savored the tasty food in their mouth. The food was so powerful. I'd like one more please. Me too. After just one bite, some customers already started to order again. I knew it. Father's food is the best, Amy muttered to herself as she stroked Ugly Duckling's hair. Looking at the happy customers, she grinned happily. Outside, a big man named SAHDR frowned as he looked at the restaurant. This is a restaurant? He had been to many places before, and arrived at this city several days ago. He couldn't remember how many times he had come here, and had never thought he could find a restaurant at this corner on the Aden Square this time. Looks like a human-owned restaurant from outside. He took 2 steps forward and looked at the clear crystal glass. It was so transparent that he wanted to touch it with his lava-covered hand. Then he stopped immediately. It might break, and it must be very expensive. I don't have a lot of money on me. He didn't have much money now. He had decided to go to the Adventurers Guild to find some quests that were harder but paid better. He would continue his journey when he had enough money. It wasn't very difficult for him to complete quests that were much harder for normal human adventurers, and the pay was very good. He could earn enough money to cover his next 6 months' travel expenses in just 15 days here. Then he would resume his journey in search of a way to get to a higher level. SAHDR looked inside through the glass. He found several humans and a dwarf. They looked very happy, eating something from a small bag. Judging by their looks, the food seems to be tasty. Then he nodded after a little hesitation. Let me check it out. Human cuisine is truly the best on the whole continent. I'll have some breakfast and then go to the guild. He opened the door and walked in. The bells rang. Mag was just putting down a plate of Yangzhou fried rice before Mabai. He looked towards the door and was a little startled when he saw who came in. It was his first demon customer. SAHDR smelled a strong meat aroma as soon as he opened the door. His eyes lit up in an instant. Different from the aroma of grilled meat and boiled meat, it was much stronger and more appetizing. He had no idea what spices and seasonings had been added and how it had been cooked. He swallowed despite himself. He didn't care much about decorations and didn't like it too fancy. This restaurant's decorations were relatively simple, but he froze for a moment when he saw a painting on the wall, in which were the Ghost Islands. It was the first time that he had seen a painting of the Demon Islands in a human-owned restaurant. There were also other paintings on the wall, depicting places like the capital of the Roth Empire and the Elves' Wind Forest. He took a look at Mag, who was in his plain black and white clothes. Apparently the owner is a man of the world. But will he let me eat here? SAHDR stopped in his tracks. Mag was looking over SAHDR too. He had seen demons occasionally these days when he went out. Demons came in many different looks. Some demons had a blade of grass on the head, and some demons' heads were burning. They were, in short, the most abnormal beings. Of course, succubi were not included. When he went out to buy sheep milk yesterday, he had seen a good-looking succubus. She had a beautiful voice and was pretty hot. She had been bargaining with a vendor. In only a few words, she had made the vendor sell her a bag of cucumbers which had been priced at 15 copper coins at 5 copper coins, and she had got some green onions for free. He had been really impressed. SAHDR was the first demon customer to come to his restaurant. He was very large, even a head taller than Habeng brothers. He looked very much like a human, though. His eyes were dark red. Many cracks covered his bald head, face, neck, and hands, and inside the cracks was red lava, making him look like he had tattoos all over his body, looking a little scary. His black outfit was neat and half-worn. The bottom of his leather boots had worn thin. He must have traveled a long way in them. The most conspicuous part was the scarlet cape over his shoulders, which drooped just below his waist, red like fire. Humans who had lived a long time in Chaos City didn't fear demons too much. After all, they could see various species every day, and it was normal for them to have some demon neighbors. Nonetheless, most of the humans didn't like dining with demons or forest trolls. They dared not talk loudly in their presence, so they would feel a little constrained. That was why quite a few human-owned restaurants would make a special section for demons and trolls to eat, or they would simply put up a sign outside of their door, saying, "Demons and trolls are not allowed in the restaurant." As for the restaurants owned by elves, they would make a separate, most comfortable section for elves, and wouldn't let dwarves, demons, and trolls in. The customers looked toward Mag. They were all humans except Mabai. They didn't see a special section for demons here, so they were very curious what he would do. Naturally, they didn't want him to eat here. Mag was a human himself, so they supposed he wouldn't let him in. Mag read their minds from their looks. Kick him out? No, he wouldn't do that. He was thinking about getting some treasures from giant dragons someday. Demons were nothing compared to dragons. As long as they ate in his place, they were his customers. He didn't discriminate. I recommend you reject some customers to give most of your clientele a good dining experience, the system said sincerely all of a sudden. Or you can separate the restaurant into different sections and make strong species and weak ones eat in their designated sections, respectively, to avoid conflicts. Then you'll have the mission quantity of getting 1,000 customers, asked Mag calmly. The mission can't be changed after having been assigned. Take your mission seriously, or you'll trigger a hidden mission again, system replied solemnly. Then why do you make me reject half of my customers? Do you take me for a fool? Mag curled his lip. The system replied with an ellipsis. And, you will expand the restaurant for me? Mag asked. System can only use the land you supply, and now that the restaurant is complete, you have no right to expand it currently, the system answered. It's so small, and you want me to make sections. There are 16 tables, so if one species gets one section, do you plan to make me allocate 2 tables to each species and label them elves, demons, humans? System, is this how the god of cookery is supposed to run his restaurant? Mag asked sarcastically. The system fell silent. Seeing that the system didn't reply, Mag said no other word. He wouldn't separate his restaurant into sections, and wouldn't reject other species, because of his big dream of eradicating racism. As a half-elf, Amy was being discriminated against now. That was a fact he could not tolerate. A protest parade was not a very practicable method in this world. He decided to start from instilling his idea into his customers, so he looked at the lava demon and smiled. Welcome. Please take a seat. Other customers looked at Mag with surprise. They had thought that he wouldn't let him in. After all, most of the customers that had come here these days were humans. They had never thought that Mag would not only let him in, but it seemed he didn't plan to allocate a special section for demons. That way, he could sit wherever he wanted. Maybe he would sit next to them, or even at their table. Thinking of this, some customers became a little nervous. All the species might be under the governance of the Grey Temple, and even normal humans could live in peace here. However, even in a place where there were only humans, there would be conflicts, to say nothing of Chaos City. Humans were generally weak, so it was not very uncommon for humans to be killed by some demon, troll, or orc. Naturally, humans had grudges against them. They took a look at the aromatic Rugiamo in their hands, and then at SAHDR's. After hesitating for a while, they got back to eating Rugiemo at last. To hell with it. With Rugiemo this good, I would even dine with a giant dragon at the same table, they thought. Sargeras gave a nod, a little surprised himself. All these years, he had been rejected by many human-owned restaurants, and those that had let him in had put him in a designated area, making him feel like an outsider. He hadn't expected that this skinny human was not afraid of him. His letting him sit wherever he wanted made him feel respected for the first time. He took a look around and seated himself at the corner near the door. No one had sat there before. He hadn't had any breakfast, and the tantalizing meat aroma made him even hungrier. He pointed at the Rugiemo in one customer's hands as he looked at Mag owner. "I'd like one of those." His voice was hoarse and dry as if he hadn't drunk any water in a long time. Mag nodded. "Okay." He turned around and walked towards the kitchen. "Wow, a big bald head." Amy's eyes brightened as she saw Sargeras. She slipped down the chair, holding the little kitten in her arms, and walked over to his table. "Hello, big bald head, I'm Amy. Are you a demon?" "What kind of demon?" "You have no hair at all, are you a bald demon?" Amy asked curiously as she looked up at him. "Meow." Ugly Duckling also raised its head and looked at Sargeras in Amy's arms. Neither of them showed any fear towards him. Sargeras was taken by surprise. He had never been called a big bald head to his face before. Being a lava demon, he had a short temper, violent like lava. Nobody had dared take him lightly even in the Demon Islands. In this Chaos City, normal humans always avoided him. He had never thought that this little girl would have dared call him that. However, when he dropped his angry gaze to Amy, his anger vanished right away. Such a cute little girl. She had silver hair, which had been braided into 2 braids, her adorable face was exquisite, and she had 2 pointy ears. It seemed she was a half-elf. She was holding a white and orange fluffy animal in her arms. They were standing at his table, looking up at him, their deep blue eyes filled with curiosity and anticipation. He could see from their looks that their questions were not asked out of spite, but out of their innocent curiosity. Once, he would have scared them off with some fireball, but this little girl was so cute he couldn't bear to frighten her into crying. Besides, she should be the owner's daughter. The owner just showed me respect, so I'll just let it go. Still, he gave a scowling look. "I'm Sargeras, a strong lava demon warrior, not some bald demon," he said. Amy shrugged. Sar. Big bald head. Your name is so difficult to pronounce. Big bald head is much better. I'll remember your name when I see you. Sargeras' eyes were sullen with anger again. He would challenge the other party to a duel if before him were a man. No, he would give him a pyroblast directly and show him what would happen when he disrespected a lava demon. But looking at Amy's frowning face, he wasn't able to get angry. How could he hurt such a little girl? As a demon, Sargeras had seldom softened his heart or shown sympathy. He had killed a few humans for different reasons these years. Now, he could feel anger burning inside him, but he couldn't get it out. After all, the little girl had tried to say his name. He was even wondering if his name was truly a little difficult to remember. Mag walked out, holding a Rugiemo in his hands. "Your Laji Rugiemo," he said as he handed it to Sargeras. Then he stroked Amy's head, smiling. He had overheard most of their conversation. His little girl was both lovable and irritating. Mag had a vicious tongue himself, so when he watched as customers got irritated by Amy and had to forgive her after they saw her face, he felt really good. It was a vicious pleasure. Sargeras took the Rugiemo in his hand, and diverted his attention from Amy to the Rugiemo. It was steaming, giving off a pleasant meat aroma. He could see chopped meat inside the white bread. He had been to many places, even the capital of the Roth Empire, but he had never seen a bread like this before. He couldn't help but take a bite. An unprecedentedly delicious taste spread out in his mouth, making him close his eyes in spite of himself. Every taste bud of his was cheering and dancing happily. The taste was so different, totally unlike the meat he had ever had, and the crispy, soft, and sweet bread took the taste to another level. The food was so delicious that it moved him. He was not much of a picky foodie. He often ate his food raw in the Demon Islands. At best, he would cook it on his hand. Then he left to look for a way to become stronger. Subsequently, he was exposed to human food slowly. He found that the food after being cooked had a much better texture and taste. However, it was the first time he had eaten such tasty food. It was on another level entirely, like a little torch that had been turned into lava. Mag took Amy's hand and backed away from him. The meat was from Demon Islands, and according to the system, it should have a strong effect on demons, so they had to take precautions. After SAHDR swallowed, the Rugiamo slid down his throat like a hot current. Instantly, he felt as if his throat were on fire, and this feeling spread in his blood quickly. His blood seemed to be boiling, rushing in his veins like a galloping horse, surging and splashing. A flame appeared on his body, then another, like flowers blooming above the blood. Hoo! Ah! With a shout, he opened his eyes suddenly. Flames rose from all over his body, about a dozen centimeters high. Then the front of his clothes burst wide open. They watched as the cracks in his body widened and the golden red fluid flew inside. It was giving off horrible heat like the real lava. He burst his clothes. Mag lifted an eyebrow. The look on his face became a little strange. Not only did SAHDR burst his clothes, but his body was also going up in flames. The red lava inside the cracks in his skin had greatly raised the ambient temperature all of a sudden. Mag was a little startled as he looked at SAHDR. What if a succubus ate this Rugiamo? He didn't want to picture what would happen. He felt the need to add some warnings on the menu. Fortunately, SAHDR's clothes were made of some special material, so they were not affected by the fire. He didn't have to suffer the embarrassment of having no clothes on. Two customers who were just entering were also frightened by this scene. The strong meat aroma made them swallow, but the seemingly raging lava demon sent them closing the door and backing away from the restaurant quietly. What has Mag done to that lava demon? Why is he in combat stance? The two customers walked a few steps, but couldn't tear themselves away from the tantalizing aroma, a little worried and surprised. Lava demons were very powerful even among demons. They had destructive power and could burn down a house with several fireballs. Mag is normally very kind and placid, how did he irritate that demon? If that big thing went on a rampage, he might tear this restaurant apart. They thought. If the owner was powerful or had powerful backup, he wouldn't worry about people making trouble. But Mag and Amy are alone, and they are no match for that powerful demon. They were a little worried that they might not be able to eat such delicious food like Young Joe fried rice anymore. They had come here early today to try the new dish. The customers in the restaurant knew that SAHDR was only like this because of the Rugiamo. They felt their blood running hot too after eating the Rugiamo, but the effect was not very dramatic, and they felt pretty comfortable. However, they had never thought that this demon would react so drastically. He went directly into his combat stance. They were wondering what Mag had put into the Rugiamo. SAHDR rose to his feet and took several steps back. He didn't want to burn down the table. His blood and the lava over his body were rushing quickly. He felt the barrier that had been constraining him for so many years was finally starting to become loose. His heart was pounding with excitement. He had tried countless ways since his power stopped growing 50 years ago. His footprints had covered more than half of the continent, yet he still hadn't found any solution. He had never thought that a bite of Rugiamo would make his blood pump and make him feel that he was able to get to another level. He felt sparks were ignited all of a sudden. He felt that if he continued eating, those sparks would slowly turn into big fire, and he would rise from the fire, break through the barrier, and become the first lava demon to have gone to a higher level for 100 years. Then, he could carry out the plan he had devised 50 years ago, and that thing under the holy lake could surface again. He became a little excited. While the others were holding their breaths watching SAHDR, wondering if there would be other changes, Amy pointed a finger at the ashes on the ground and said, "Father, he burnt down our chair." Then she lifted her eyes to look at SAHDR, her face full of seriousness. "You have to pay for that, big bald head. You may be a demon, but my temper is very bad. Pay, or I'll set you on fire." Meow. Ugly Duckling became angry too. It growled at SAHDR, but its voice was a little cute. SAHDR was still immersed in his excitement. He froze for a moment, looked down at the ashes of the chair, and scratched his bald head in embarrassment. He was in a good mood now, so he didn't care if he had to pay for a chair. He restrained the fire, and the ambient temperature dropped a lot, but the golden red lava could still be seen flowing inside the cracks. "I'll pay for it. But, owner, I'd like another 10 rugiemos," he said with a wave of his hand. Amy nodded. "Remember what you said." There was a hint of a warning in her eyes. The small-eyed man put down the bag and rose from his table contentedly. "Little owner, can I have the check, please?" he said to Amy as he pulled out his purse. "It feels so comfortable after a rugiemo in the early morning. The refreshing feeling is just so pleasant." Amy nodded. "1 rugiemo, 3 gold coins." The small-eyed man took out 3 gold coins from his purse and put them on Amy's hand. "Here, 3 gold coins." Then, he said goodbye to Mag, walked sideways to keep his distance from SAHDR, and walked out. 3. "Owner, your bread is 3 gold coins each. Then how much do I owe you for this chair?" SAHDR asked as he looked at Mag with his widened eyes. He touched his purse subconsciously. As far as he was concerned, 3 gold coins was not expensive at all for such a powerful bread, but he only had a dozen gold coins in his purse now, so he couldn't afford to buy 10 rugiemos even if he didn't have to pay for that chair. Other customers looked in their direction, wondering how much he had to pay for such a chair. The restaurant's decoration style made them comfortable. The tables and chairs were simple but not plain, of classic style. Mag nodded, smiling. "Yes, rugiemo is 3 gold coins each." Then he cast a glance at the ashes and asked in his mind, "System, how much is this chair?" "1 customized chair, 10 gold coins," the system answered slowly. Mag's mouth curled downwards. 10? Are you trying to rip him off?" Mag asked. "Although the chair is of high quality, the price is a little too high. All the tables and chairs are made from the same tree, which was hundreds of years old and grew in the wind forest. The growth rings and coloration on them are completely identical, making them a real feast to the eyes. Now there are only 5 of these chairs left. You'd better order now while supplies last," the system answered calmly. "You use Elves' holy spring to water your rice, and use their hundreds of years old tree to make tables and chairs. You really have little regard for my life, don't you?" Mag didn't feel comfortable with the way the system did things. Be that as it might, the system had really gone to great lengths to raise the restaurant's style. His restaurant might be the only one in the whole Chaos City to use tables and chairs made from trees in the wind forest. "I have everything under control. Don't worry, and don't underestimate me," the system said, a little irritated. Mag paid no mind to the system. He looked at SAHDR and said with a smile, "This chair is 10 gold coins." 13. 13 gold coins. SAHDR looked down at the gold coins in his hand. Amy stood on tiptoe and took a look. 13 gold coins, big bald head, she said, nodding. Mag took a look at the gold coins in SAHDR's hands. 13, no more, no less. He said he wanted 10 more. Looks like he doesn't have enough money on him today. Mag wanted to chuckle. The 2 customers outside didn't see anything disturbing happen. They watched a small-eyed man walk out and leave satisfied and relaxed, so they figured it should be all right for them to eat here. They hesitated for a moment and walked inside. "Owner, I think 10 gold coins is too much for a wooden chair. I can buy one with 2. I'll give you 4 and buy another 2 rigiemos with the remaining 6. What do you say?" Sargeras raised his voice, looking at Mag with his red eyes. Sargeras always spoke bluntly with males. Now, he was using a much more polite tone because of rigiemo. Once, he would have held a big fireball in his hand. The 2 men who had just walked in withdrew a little as they saw the angry lava demon. But when they heard his words, they were a little surprised. Looks like his stomach has succumbed to Mag's food. He is haggling with a human just to get 2 rigiemos. This demon is hopeless, they thought. Even a demon didn't care about losing face before this rigiemo. Their expectations had been raised a lot. They walked inside and seated themselves, waiting for Mag to deal with his problem first. Obviously, Mag was not in the least frightened by Sargeras. He shook his head. "Sorry. All the tables and chairs are customized, and to make them more pleasant to the eye, they are all made from the same tree. Other chairs would break this uniformity, so they are not acceptable. A customized chair like this costs 10 gold coins. Even a log from the depths of the wind forest was worth a lot in the capital of the Roth Empire. A 10 gold coin chair that matched the style of the restaurant was definitely worth the money. If it were not for the fact that the system could get its hands on a lot of precious things, Mag wouldn't be surprised if this chair were sold at 100 gold coins. He was just a little worried that elves might recognize their wood. It better not be some holy tree or something, Mag thought. When the customers heard Mag's words, their eyes lit up. They were all starting to check the chairs and tables. Now they noticed that the growth rings on every table were identical, and even the coloration was the same. No wonder they felt the restaurant was so harmonious. More surprisingly, there were 16 tables and 64 matching chairs in total, and they were all from the same tree. It must have been huge. No such tree existed around Chaos City. Even if there were one in the depths of the faraway mountains, it would undoubtedly cost a fortune to cut it down, carry it out, and make it into tables and chairs of the same style. The restaurant has gone through all this trouble to make tables and chairs for us customers. They felt really honored and respected. 3 gold coins is too expensive for a rigiemo? No, even 6 is worth the enjoyment of eating such a delicious rigiemo in such a fancy restaurant. Some customers were already starting to feel that way. They set their eyes on other decorations. Even tables and chairs are so exquisite, so other fancy ornaments must be marvelous too. On second thought, they decided they had to be more careful. They might have to pay a lot of money for every object they broke here. Mag's words inadvertently raised the quality and class of the restaurant in customers' mind. Most of the people who came here in the early morning to eat a 3 gold coin rigiemo didn't have to work there as *es off for money, they were starting to truly live their life. The flames on Sargeras suddenly rose again. He was truly very angry. He stuffed the half rigiemo in his mouth, chewed several times, and swallowed. The fire became even fiercer. He had learned this time. He knew he had to keep away from the table and the door, after all, they looked more expensive. He was staring at Mag, ready to scare him with a big fireball. Chairs were all the same as far as he was concerned. He decided that Mag's fancy words were meant to confuse and trick him into paying a lot. He wouldn't allow that to happen. Amy was standing in front of Mag. She put Ugly Duckling on the floor. "Big bald head, you have to listen to my father, or I'll use my fireball on you," she said solemnly as she looked up at the lava-covered flaming Sargeras. "Move away, kid. This is between me and your father," Sargeras said in a hoarse voice. Amy was cramping his style. The customers became a little nervous. In their eyes, little Amy and weak Mag didn't stand a chance against the lava-covered flaming Sargeras. Frowning, Mabai turned his head, but he didn't seem very worried. Amy's fireball had frightened Habeng, and Mag was certainly no ordinary man, so he was sure that they wouldn't let anything dangerous happen to him. Amy sighed. Well, it can't be helped. Why won't you listen? She extended her hand, and a bluish-violet fire suddenly appeared and became a fist-sized fireball. Pay now, or I'll set you on fire, she said seriously as she gazed at SAHDR. SAHDR took a look at the little fireball in Amy's hand and chuckled. Do you plan to burn me with this little spark? Then he frowned and looked at Mag owner, you want to hide behind your little girl. My father is very powerful. But collecting money is my job, so, burn, big bald head. Amy said angrily before Mag could say a word. With a swing of her hand, the bluish-violet fireball flew towards SAHDR immediately. Oh ho! SAHDR looked at the little fireball which wasn't much bigger than his thumb, and didn't seem to care. He reached out with his right hand casually, planning to grab and put it out. However, the moment the fireball reached SAHDR's hand, it exploded directly. The bluish-violet fireball wrapped SAHDR's hand up and spread along his red flames as if they were alcohol. Almost in an instant, Amy's flame swallowed him whole. The bluish-violet fire was dancing over the red fire, it looked like they were consuming each other. The customers gave a gasp of surprise. They had never thought that Amy's little fireball would enwrap SAHDR's, but they still didn't know the power of her flame. SAHDR took a look at the bluish-violet fire on him, and said indifferently, you have to try a lot harder. Then suddenly, his words died in his throat when he saw his right hand. The red flames that engaged the bluish-violet flames first had been completely consumed, the latter also had little left, but they were still burning him. And that was just a beginning. The remaining bluish-violet flames quickly spread along his right hand. SAHDR, who had been insensitive to heat maybe for all his life, suddenly felt hot. He felt his rock-hard skin was being poked by needles. Mag was also a little surprised when he saw SAHDR's face change. He had thought that Amy's fireball would be ineffective on a lava demon since it hadn't even killed black coal, but, apparently, he was wrong. The power of her fireball seemed to be extraordinary. Mag's strength was only 1.5, so he knew better than to throw himself at SAHDR. He didn't want to commit suicide. Yet he wasn't worried that SAHDR would tear the restaurant apart. He could see that he liked, or rather craved, the Rugiemo somehow, he needed it very badly. This was where Mag's confidence came from. No other restaurant on the whole Norland continent was able to make such a Rugiemo. So, however mad this lava demon might get, he would never lay a finger on the restaurant or him or his daughter. He was a perfect subject to test Amy's power, because his fire-covered body shouldn't be easily hurt. Amy watched SAHDR and frowned. Do you want some more? Then she held out her hand. If one is not enough, then I'll give you two, she said. No. Stop. It's so hot. SAHDR said as he jumped back a step and waved vigorously at Amy. The lava inside him was flowing fast, making his skin glow. Then he managed to withstand the bluish-violet flames, which had completely consumed all his red flames. He flung his arms a few times, and the fire was finally put out. SAHDR breathed a sigh of relief. When he saw Amy, who was still holding out her hand, he waved again. I've had enough. One is enough, he said helplessly. There was fright in his eyes. Some customers laughed out. The big, flaming SAHDR was standing before cute little Amy like a mouse before a cat. It was so amusing. As they laughed, they also felt a little startled. This lava demon isn't just looking frightening, besides, lava demons are very powerful demons. If they had a large number, they would have made the top 10 demon subspecies. But such a powerful demon backed off because of Amy's fireball, and is afraid that she might unleash another. He is fighting in his element, yet he just surrendered? Then how terrifying Amy's flames must be. The customers wondered. They looked at Mag in a different way. No ordinary man could own such a stylish gourmet restaurant. Even his 4-year-old daughter possesses the power to scare a lava demon. The customers decided they couldn't be too picky or grouchy in the restaurant and that they definitely had to pay after eating. They had no power to stand up to such a fireball. Their laughter made SAHDR's face even redder. He, a lava demon warrior, was now forced to surrender to a half-elf girl. It was truly embarrassing. The bluish-violet fire was terrifying, but it was not the main reason why he surrendered. Before Amy's fire consumed his body, he had enough time to summon lava meteorite to wreck this restaurant 3 times. But he had no choice. If he tore it down, the method he had been searching for 50 years would be gone with it. He couldn't afford to let that happen. So, he couldn't touch the restaurant, the owner, nor the owner's daughter. If he had to tough out another Amy's fireball, his skin might be scorched. It would be painful, and he might react in spite of himself. So the best solution was to give up. It's all right. Mag put his hand gently on Amy's head to signal her to stop the fire that was about to appear. His smile was gone. Sir, you have to obey the rules here, Mag said seriously as he looked at SAHDR. No one is allowed to fight in the restaurant. No one is allowed to threaten the owner and employees. Otherwise, he'll be banned forever. When SAHDR heard that he might be banned, he held back the fire over his body immediately. Owner, I was just joking. See? The little girl is having a very good time. He scratched his bald head as he gave a dry smile. Then he quickly put the gold coins on the table. I'll pay 10 gold coins for the chair. And here is 3 for the Rugiamo. But can I have another 10 Rugiamos and put the bill on my tab? On my honor as a lava demon warrior, I'll pay you back as soon as I complete my quest and earn the money. Mag shook his head. Sorry. There are rules here. We do not accept any kind of promise. Cash only, no credit allowed. He went over to the table and turned over the menu. There were 3 rules clearly written on the back. System, you're pretty smart, Mag said in his mind as he saw the 3rd rule about no fighting and threatening the owner. 16 silver coins to add that, the money has been deducted automatically, the system said. Stop thinking about how to make money all day long. Be a little decent, will you? Mag couldn't refrain from criticizing it. But, SAHDR wouldn't give up that easy. He wanted to eat 10 in a row. Besides the effect on his barrier, the Rugiamo was also divine. Amy crouched down. Ugly Duckling ran to her happily. She picked it up. Find a job, demon. If you want to eat this delicious Rugiamo, you have to try hard to earn money, Amy said to SAHDR as she clenched her little fist. Outside the restaurant, a white-haired old man who was resting under a big tree in his white magician robe suddenly lifted his head and looked in the direction of the restaurant. What is this? He asked himself. His deep eyes narrowed slightly. This magic wave? An elf? No, a human. No, what is it? It's so different. Krasuaiou hesitated a moment, picked up his magic staff which was as tall as himself, and walked slowly towards the restaurant. He had been wandering in Chaos City for several days and hadn't found anything interesting. Today might turn out to be his lucky day. Inside the restaurant, SAHDR took a look at the menu on the table, then at Amy who was encouraging him, and at Mag who showed no sign of giving in. He let out a sigh of helplessness. Money was indeed very important in this world. First, he found Mag a little unreasonable, but when he thought about the delicious and powerful Rugiamo he made, he considered it quite understandable for him to have some rules and temper. Even this little girl is able to make such a terrifying fireball, so Mag is very likely a powerful magic caster. He is very inconspicuous because he is so young and nothing on him can show he is a magic caster, SAHDR thought. Once, he had seen a white-haired old human magic caster in the capital of the Roth Empire. He possessed such great power that he had defeated a giant dragon with only a fireball. He heard later that the old man was one of the royal magic casters and was among the most powerful ones in the Roth Empire. He didn't remember his name, though. Well, I won't break your rules. I'm SAHDR, by the way. I'll come back again, SAHDR said as he reached out his hand. SAHDR. Mag was taken by surprise. He might not have been a game junkie, but he sure had played the World of Warcraft. He paused a moment and asked, "Where is your Burning Legion?" "What?" SAHDR asked, confused. "Looks like they just share the same name." Mag breathed a sigh of relief. He took a look at SAHDR's hand, in which he could see lava flowing, and shook his head uneasily. "Never mind. I'm Mag. Please do come again." "But shaking hands. I have to work later, so I don't want to have to bandage my hand." SAHDR froze for an instant. He looked down at his hand and recalled that even human magic casters were still humans. He drew back his hand. "Well, I'll take my leave, then." He regulated his body temperature back to normal as he turned back. This way he wouldn't melt the handle as he opened the door. As he walked out, SAHDR nodded thoughtfully. Burning Legion? Not a bad name. Then he walked towards the exit of the Aiden Square quickly. "Father, Amy's incredible, right?" Amy looked up at Mag, waiting for his praise. Mag stroked her head with a smile. "Yes. Amy's super incredible. You've helped a lot." He felt he was building up a fearsome facade with Amy. He didn't have any strong backing or strength, so for now, it was not bad for him to rely on her. It was still urgent for him to improve his strength, though. Amy smiled merrily, contentment written all over her little face. "I'd like 2 plates of the new dish, please," one customer said politely as he raised his hand. "I'd also like 2. "No hurry. Take your time," another customer said, smiling. Mag nodded with a smile. "Sure. Please wait a moment." He left Amy and Ugly Duckling to themselves, and walked quickly towards the kitchen. Krasu stopped before the floor-to-ceiling window and was a little surprised when he saw Amy, who was holding a white and orange little creature in her arms. "Looks like the magic wave was from that little girl." Then he shook his head with pity. Such a shame. She could have been a real talent, but, sadly, she was spoiled by the collision of 2 bloodlines, otherwise, I would have got what I came here for. Her talent is wasted by him. A little guidance is all she needs. Krasu stamped his foot in anger. He wanted to leave, but he couldn't move his feet as he gazed at Amy. He stood before the window, motionless. Amy noticed Krasu. She walked a little closer. "Ugly Duckling, why is that white-beard grandpa standing there like a statue? Maybe he has no money, and that's why he doesn't dare to come in? Like the little match girl? If he sells matches too, should we buy one for him?" she asked softly as she widened her eyes to look over Krasu, trying to find out whether or not he had a basket full of matches hidden under his robe. "Meow," replied Ugly Duckling. It was also starting to look for matches on him, though it didn't know what matches were. "She looks pretty intelligent. She is a half-elf, but perhaps she is trainable and has potential. Maybe I should check her out," Krasu thought as he looked at the cute twin-braid Amy who was looking over him with her big bright blue eyes. Then he glanced at the busy restaurant and the opening hours on the door. He was in no hurry to walk in. He stared at Amy and Ugly Duckling through the crystal glass for half an hour. Mag saw Krasu too when serving. Different from the grim black-robed durian next door, this white-haired, white-bearded, and white-robed magic caster who was holding a light grey staff was more like a magic caster to him. Amy stood there for a moment, and then sat at a window seat with her kitten. She continued to stare at Krasu. Both of them were not blinking. She didn't stand up, except when she had to collect money. Other than that, her eyes didn't even move a bit. Near 9 a.m., customers were falling off. He had already sold out all the 64 Rugiamos by 8:30. Those who didn't get to eat asked Mag to make more next time. Mag felt a little sorry himself. He also wanted to make more and earn more money. It seemed he had to be more efficient from tomorrow. When there were only 3 customers left in the restaurant, Krasua diverted his eyes from Amy and walked in. "Welcome," Mag said, smiling. He was the first magic caster to eat here. Amy took a look at Krasua. "Father, this is Mag Grandpa," she said solemnly as she looked back at Mag. Mag was taken by surprise. "Mag Grandpa?" He saw Amy's sympathetic eyes and remembered the story he had told her about a little Mag girl. Apparently, she had taken Krasua for a destitute old man. However, he didn't look poor to Mag judging from his demeanor. He is either a reclusive master or holds a high position in the empire. The decorations didn't surprise him, because they meant nothing to him. "Details are saying a lot." Amy nodded. "Yes. Look how pitiful he is. He's been waiting for so long, and no one has bought a match from him. Why don't we buy one?" Then she looked at Krasua and said, "Grandpa, don't worry. You might still die of hunger even if we buy one from you, but you'd be a lot better than the little girl who hadn't sold even one match, so you should die in peace." Krasua was a little confused. "She seems to be mistaken." He shook his head with a smile. "Little girl, actually, I'm not. You must be cold and hungry, and longing for a roast goose," Amy interrupted. "But Ugly Duckling is just a baby, you can't eat it now," she said vigilantly as she drew back, holding the kitten in her arms. "Meow." A little worried, Ugly Duckling looked up at Amy, its eyes wide. Krasua didn't know what to say. "The little girl looks at me as a poor old man who wants to eat roast goose before I can say a word. And what does this have to do with that little cat-like creature?" Mag wanted to chuckle as he looked at the vigilant Amy. He saw Krasua's confused face and smiled quickly. "Sorry. I told her a story before and she believed it. What would you like to eat? The menu is on the table. Take a look, but La Girugiamos are sold out." "Thank you." Krasua didn't think much and took a seat opposite Amy. He leaned his staff against the window, gave Amy a kind smile, and picked up the menu on the table. He came here to find out if Amy had a talent to learn magic and ask her guardian's opinion, but he didn't want to be so forward by bringing that up this instant. Of course, being turned down was the least of his worries. People who wanted to be apprenticed to him would line up from the palace to the gate of the capital. There might be pressure from outside if he took a half-elf on as a disciple. However, he hadn't been caring about stuff like that after he passed 120. Now, all he wanted was a good student to whom he could pass his skills on. Krasua didn't care if his disciple was a human, an elf, or even a half-elf. He couldn't care less about other people's opinions. People knew better than to mess with him. It was the most comfortable restaurant he had been to these days in Chaos City. Of course, in grandness, it was nothing compared to the palace of the Roth Empire. It was very busy. A restaurant in a corner had so many customers. It must have a lot of different dishes. Krasua opened the menu, and was surprised when he found only 2 dishes on it. He said La Girugiamo has sold out, so only Yongzhou fried rice is available now. "Owner, what's this Yongzhou fried rice?" Krasua asked as he looked up at Mag. He had lived more than 120 years, and never once had he heard about this dish. 600 copper coins isn't cheap. The cost of a plate of this can last 10 days for a normal family of 3. Super delicious rainbow fried rice. Amy blurted out before Mag could speak. Then she became a little worried. "I know you want to eat it, but we don't accept matches. Cash only. If you have no money to pay, I'll use my fire on you." "Actually, I have money," Krasua said as he smiled gently. He held out a lean, old hand from his loose robe, and put it on the table, palm up. There were 2 dragon coins in the middle. "So you don't sell matches?" Amy watched the dragon coins in his hand, a little confused. "I don't sell matches, but if you want, I can make one for you." Then he snapped his fingers, and poof, a match as thick as a little finger and 2 fingers long appeared on his fingertip. Mag was startled when he saw this. It's a higher level magic making something out of nothing. He is a true master. Amy's fireball can only destroy, but Krasu's match magic is simple yet skillful. He has combined magic with life and he's good at it, Mag thought. He must be very powerful. Wow! You can use magic. Amy's eyes lit up completely as she stared at the match in Krasu's hand. Krasu nodded, smiling. Sure. I'm a magic caster. This is nothing. Some magic can beat giant dragons and trolls. Do you want to learn? Mag had thought that Krasu was about to order, and had never expected that he would trick Amy into learning magic. He became a little wary. He knew Amy wanted to learn, but right now, they couldn't expose who they were. He had left the capital for this chaos city to shun those sneering eyes. Those people had let him live that night to laugh at his miserable life. He had faked his suicide, changed his face, and settled here. Now, 4 years had passed. Most of them should assume that we are already dead, thought Mag. But it's a matter of life or death, so we can't be too careful. Amy must have inherited her talent in magic from her mother. If this talent is possessed by royalty only, then I have all the more reason to find a trustworthy teacher for her. Amy shook her head immediately without thinking. No, then she pointed at Mag, and said proudly, my father is also a very powerful magic caster. He conjured up this beautiful restaurant, and he can make all kinds of tasty food. Can you? Krasu froze for a minute. He didn't know how to cook. He raised his eyes to look at Mag and didn't find any magic wave on him, and he found that the restaurant was made of normal material. Its building material is a lot better than other restaurants, but magic is not involved. Looks like the owner lied to his daughter to build up his image as a great father. Owner, I'd like a plate of Yangzhou fried rice, please, Krasu said as he looked at Mag with a smile. Since the little girl won't listen, I'll have to find a way through her father. Mag nodded. Okay. Please wait a moment. He turned to walk towards the kitchen. He was pretty satisfied with Amy's answer, at least she didn't say yes right away. Seeing that this magic caster was not quite ready to give up, he was still on alert. Now that it was evident that Krasu was not here to sell matches and that he had money, Amy wasn't in a hurry to make him leave. White-bearded grandpa, where are you from? She asked curiously. I'm Krasu Aiou, from Rodu, the capital of the Roth Empire. It's much bigger than Chaos City, a dozen times bigger. I walked half a year to arrive here, Krasu answered with a smile, trying to soften his voice and expression. If people from the serving tower saw Krasu, who used to be stern and even grim, talking to a little girl in such a gentle way, they would be stunned speechless. Mag stopped moving and clenched his fist. About half of the powerful human magic casters were living in Rodu, and the most powerful ones among them were stationed at the 36-storied Magus Tower. They served the royalty, so the tower was also known as the Serving Tower. That night, 3 magic casters had attacked him, and 2 had been from the Serving Tower. That meant the royal family, or at least some of them, had given their consent. That incident had shocked the army of the Empire. The king had ordered to clean up the Magus Tower. They had made 2 small potatoes from the royal family their scapegoats, and then the whole thing had blown over. Mag found Krasu in his predecessor's memory. He was one of those magic casters serving the royal family. It was said he was over 120 years old. He was very introverted and mysterious, and had never left the tower. Even if there were big events in the Roth Empire, he had never attended them. The king himself could do nothing about him. As a knight, Mag didn't like magic casters very much. He had never seen Krasu before until now. He didn't know whether that incident had been agreed upon by all the magic casters in the tower or had been a secret mission executed by only those 2 magic casters. Either way, Mag decided to keep Amy away from this Krasu. The serving tower consists of different kinds of people. As one of the senior magic casters in it, he must have heard about that incident. I can't take any risks. Seeing that he was trying to interest Amy in Rodu, Mag became a little anxious. He would never let Amy leave his side, to say nothing of letting her go to that lifeless Magus tower. Having made up his mind, Mag went into the kitchen and started processing the ingredients to make Yongzhou fried rice. He walked half a year? Amy thought a moment, cocking her head. As Krasu was assuming that she would become intrigued and ask questions about Rodu, Amy let out a sigh. "White-bearded grandpa, you're so old," she said considerately. "Such a short road took you 6 months. Why don't you stay at home? If you fell, someone would have to take you back. It's very troublesome." Surprise choked Krasu's words. It would have only taken him about 20 days to come here by carriage. Yet he had chosen to walk because he wanted to find a good disciple. He had deterred to visit a lot of places. He had never thought that he would be seen as a decrepit old man by Amy. Krasu tried to calm himself down. "Actually, I can use more powerful magic," he was attempting to draw Amy's attention with magic again. "Ugly duckling, do you want to see his magic?" Amy asked as she looked down at her kitten. Ugly Duckling cast a glance at the old man and shook its head. "Me neither," Amy said, shrugging. Krasu learned for the first time that children were not as easy to be deceived as he had expected. This half-elf girl is difficult to be persuaded. She has a vicious tongue and a quick, leaping mind. She is an unusual girl. While Krasu was thinking hard on how to make Amy interested in him, Mag came out, holding a plate of Yongzhou fried rice. "Your Yongzhou fried rice," he said with a smile as he put it before him. "What's this?" Krasu's eyes brightened immediately as he saw the colorful fried rice in front of him. Just like Amy had said, it was like a rainbow. Colors had been chopped up and fried together. Egg-coated rice and grain-sized ingredients cut by amazing skills combined to make such an exquisite dish. The aroma of the eggs and different ingredients made him swallow in spite of himself. It was so strong that it was even more inviting than the food the chefs made in the palace. Krasu had lost his appetite for many years, but now he felt an urge to try it. He picked up his spoon, took a spoonful from the middle, and ate it. The eggs outside the rice were so tender, and the ham released tasty juice as he bit into it. The mixed taste of different ingredients stirred his long-dead taste buds, seeming to have revived them. They found nourishment in the food, and he found his long-forgotten appetite again. When he chewed on the rice, Krasu opened his eyes immediately. This is... The rice was sweet, delicious, and comfortable, nourishing his whole body as he swallowed. He was startled and confused. "I'm familiar with this feeling. It's the taste of spring of life. The elves' holy spring." Once, an interesting elf girl had visited him and brought him a small jar of water from the spring of life. He could never forget its taste. The water was the main reason why he was able to live such a long time. Even he had only got to try the water 3 times, and the other 2 times was because of the welfare of being a royal magic caster. Such a shame. What a nice girl. She married a wrong man. Where does the taste of the spring of life come from? Did the owner add some while cooking? Even 1 drop of that is something. Krasu's hand paused a moment, and then he couldn't help but bring another spoonful to his mouth. Savoring the delicious taste in his mouth, he forgot the spring of life, his depressing memories, and his rough journey in search of a disciple. The taste made him forget everything for the moment. Krasu put the spoon down softly. Not 1 single grain of rice was left. He chewed on the last mouthful of fried rice, feeling the pleasant taste spreading in his mouth. After he swallowed, the fried rice became a warm current, nourishing his almost dried-up body. He felt revived, and didn't care if it was only a lightning before death. Life was beautiful to him now. "Owner, I'd like 1 more plate," Krasu said as he looked up at Mag. He couldn't remember the last time he wanted seconds. He felt he could eat some more today. Mag shook his head slightly. Sorry, sir. Our morning opening hours are over. Actually, we have been open for an extra 3 minutes now. Please come eat another time. It was already 9:03. Mag had his non-negotiable face on. Krasil looked at Mag. I only want one more plate. I'll pay double. He pulled out 3 dragon coins and put them on the table gently. Again Mag shook his head. Sorry, but that's our rule here. If he were just a regular old man, Mag might have made an exception. But he was Krasu. He wanted nothing more than to make him leave right now. He looked dangerous to him. Father, Amy looked up at Mag, hesitating. The white-bearded grandpa is so pitiful, and he offered to pay double. Then she saw Mag's face and bit back her words. Krasu gave Mag a long stare to make sure that he wasn't expecting him to raise his offer. I see. Then I'll come back for lunch. He put 2 coins away. He wanted to ask about the spring of life, but thought better of it. He decided to bring it up later. Krasu tidied his robe and straightened himself up a bit. Owner, I have a favor to ask of you, he said as he looked at Mag. I'm Krasu, a 10th tier magic caster from the Roth Empire. I'm old now, so I'm trying to find a disciple to inherit my magic skills. I just sensed a strange magic wave from her. Could you allow me to check her talent? Maybe it's fate that I met her today. Mag narrowed his eyes. A 10th tier magic caster. There are no more than 15 on the whole continent. They are the most powerful. Even the Roth Empire has only 4 or 5 of them. But I didn't see his name on the list back then. He doesn't seem to be lying, though, because he just said it like it was nothing. If you made Amy your disciple, would you take her back to Rodu? Mag asked quietly, looking at Krasu. The old man nodded. I would. There is proper equipment and perfect magic rooms for beginners in the Magus Tower. They can learn faster there. As my disciple, she is entitled to enter the Magus Tower. That's the holy tower for magic casters. The Magus Tower was held in high regard by most magic casters on the Norland continent, and it was an important reason why a large number of magic casters was staying in Rodu. Even common people knew what it meant to enter the tower, so he didn't worry that Mag would reject his offer. Sorry, I don't like the idea of Amy leaving my side, and I will never let her go to Rodu on her own. So thank you, but I have to politely decline your offer, Mag said as he shook his head without hesitating. Amy nodded. I'll never leave you, father. Sitting on the chair, she reached out her little hand to grab Mag's finger. Krasu froze for an instant. As a 10th tier magic caster serving the Roth Empire, he wanted to test Amy. If she was qualified, he would make her his disciple and take her back to Rodu to learn magic in the Magus Tower. Even nobles in the capital would have gone crazy about this offer. Never had he thought that he would be turned down by a small restaurateur in Chaos City. During his long journey, Krasu had checked many children who wanted to be his disciple. Parents had rushed to send their kids to him even before he showed who he was. They didn't care even if he took them as an intern. Yet Mag didn't even plan to give him a chance to test his daughter. His indifference caught him by surprise, but he didn't make any gaffe. He quickly resumed his smile. Owner, you live in Chaos City, so maybe you don't know much about magic casters. The Magus Tower. I won't let Amy leave my side, period, Mag interrupted. And I'm not interested in the Magus Tower. Then he took a look at the time. Sorry, sir, we have to buy sheep milk for this little thing. If you don't mind, please come back later, he said with a courtesy smile. Amy nodded as she stroked the kitten's head. Yes. Ugly Duckling is starving. She pulled 4 gold coins from her pocket, put them on the table, and took the dragon coin away. White-bearded grandpa, you're so small and don't need much food. You won't grow any more, so save the money for your next meal. Here, your change. Krasu was feeling a mixture of emotions. I have told them who I am, sincerely offered to test her magic talent, and tried to make her my disciple, but apparently I got turned down because a kitten wanted to drink some sheep milk. I guess no one would believe that. Even if he didn't find any disciple during his journey, almost everybody had shown him a lot of respect and admiration. They had been willing to pay to make him test their children. But, sadly, it's the truth. Their gestures and looks are in sync. They don't want me to stay here. All right. Then I'll come back again. Krasu, who was rejected for the very first time when taking in a disciple, picked up the coins and walked towards the door with his staff. Be careful, white-bearded grandpa. If you fell, you might not be able to get up, Amy said as Krasu was opening the door. Krasu's hand stopped suddenly. He turned his head sharply and saw Amy's worried face. He saw the elf girl from before. He had been at the end of his life, coughing badly at the window of the 32nd floor of the Magus Tower. Suddenly, a crisp, worried voice sounded from behind him. Be careful, white-bearded grandpa. If you fell down, you might kill others. He turned back. It was a young elf lady around 16. He was meeting her for the first time. Her words were both surprising and amusing, and she had a leaping mind and a vicious tongue just like the little girl before him. The young lady had looked at him for a moment. Then she'd removed a gourd from her belt and tossed it to him, saying that it was some spring water from her home and that it would quench his thirst. After that, she started going up the stairs again. Not everybody had the right to enter the Magus Tower, and it was off-limits to other species. The concern and warmth he felt before he breathed his last made him open the gourd and take a drink, and he realized immediately that it was the milk of life, which was more precious than the water from the spring of life. There were only 3 drops in that gourd, and they prolonged his life by more than 10 years. She gave away such an invaluable thing to him, a random old man, as if it were just a bottle of water. And she didn't even know his name. He learned later that she was the Princess of Elves, the sole successor to the throne. She had brought that milk of life from home for when she was thirsty. She saw him coughing and gave it to him. It was her first time to come to the Roth Empire. The elf officials were paying a friendly visit and she tagged along. She somehow managed to trick the guards into letting her in. She went up to the top floor and wrote down the elf princess was here. Then, she left contentedly. She was the princess, so the king could not discipline her. He even retained the green writing of hers as a proof of friendship between 2 countries. Krasu brought his thoughts back and nodded at Amy, smiling. Thank you, he said. This little girl is much like her. Maybe because she is half-elf. He pushed open the door and left. He hadn't heard from elves for years. The truth of that incident had been totally blocked, and all he knew was some hearsay that Alex had been badly wounded and then killed in a demon ambush. Nobody had heard from the elf princess ever since. No one would link these 2 things together, except for the few people holding high ranks in those 2 species. Looks like the owner doesn't want his girl to leave him. Should I bring him to the tower as well? Krasu muttered as he took a glance back. Then he limped away, leaning on his staff. Not far away, at the door of the magic potion shop, Urian stood in his black robe, narrowing his eyes watching Krasu leave. Why did he leave that coffin tower? He muttered to himself as a deep green flame was dancing in his hand. Then he turned his head and saw Mag and Amy walk out. He frowned as he looked at Amy. That old man wanted to make the little girl his disciple. Mag caught Urian's look. It's a good thing that Amy is a genius, but somehow it doesn't feel good to see her being targeted by others. Krasu looked decent. It was an honor to serve the royals, and with this honor came responsibility and restraint. His black-robed neighbor, however, was making him worry that he might be a dark magic caster. His look, his voice, and his slow actions were oozing cold and darkness. Amy stopped at their neighbor's shop. Good morning, Turtle Grandpa. Black coal, green pea, hello, she said with a smile. Mag raised an eyebrow. Turtle, to be sure, Urian was a little hunchbacked, but normally, people didn't like this kind of nickname. It was a little rude one. Amy was too little to know such a thing, but Mag was embarrassed. He wanted to apologize. Urian lifted his eyes slightly. "Good morning," he said, his voice harsh and terrifying like the sound of metal rubbing together. Mag bit back his words. Seems like he isn't averse to his nickname. But I know this look from Krasu. If he wanted to take Amy on as a disciple too, that would be a real headache. "Amy, what's that ugly thing in your arms?" Black Coal asked as he moved closer. He still had 2 leaves on his body. "It's clearly more adorable than you," Green Pea said, casting a disdainful glance at Black Coal. "But aren't cats only black or white? Why is it orange and white?" she asked curiously. "Meow!" Ugly Duckling cried out at the crow. It reached out its pink paws as if trying to show its claws. It sounded like a baby, though. "A cat!" Black Coal jumped back in startlement, but he cocked his head as he took another look at the kitten. "I'm the Honorable Fama Odin Ben. I'll never be frightened by an abnormal, ugly kitten," he said proudly. Amy shook her head. "It's not a kitten. It's an ugly duckling." She stroked its hair to comfort it. "Black Coal, you're the ugliest one here, an ugly duckling can only be the second ugliest. And it will grow up." Black Coal became a little nervous again. Watching the little kitten wagging its tail proudly, he sneered, "I'm not afraid of that little thing. Look at his short legs. It's not able to reach me. Besides, growing up in a restaurant, it will get fat." Mag gave Amy's head a stroke, smiling. "Let's go, Amy. I have to prepare the ingredients when we get back," he said. "The ingredients for La Girugiamo have to be processed in advance, and this magic caster's staring is making me uncomfortable." "Bye," Amy said, waving her hand, and left with Mag. "Maybe I can look into her as well. If she has a talent for the dark magic, I will steal her from that old man." "It would be very interesting," Urian muttered to himself as he watched Amy leave. After they got back from the market, Mag bottled some sheep milk for Amy and the kitten. He watched as they sucked happily. Then he poured some for himself. He knew his strength couldn't recover in a short time, but he could feel his strength growing slowly. As he was kneading dough, he checked his mission schedule in his head. He wasn't worried about selling 1,000 Rugiamos. Working at this pace, he could finish it in about 6 days. However, the mission of getting 1,000 customers was not looking good. Only 10 new customers had come in the morning. Regular customers were too many. He was a little anxious. "I have to be more efficient. The ordering and serving are taking too much time. Amy clearly can't handle these 2 things. Maybe I should hire someone to work for me," Mag thought. As for the purchasing limit strategy, he still didn't want to try it. If customers couldn't have their fill of food, should they starve or go to another restaurant? Mag decided to improve efficiency and only limit the takeout food. He wanted more people to eat in his restaurant without having to limit the servings. There was another problem, though. There were huge eaters in this world, like giant dragons and forest trolls. One such customer would consume everything they could supply for one day. Maybe he would have to limit supplies then, or he would have to ask the system to buy an oversized oven to cook huge Rugiamos. Either way, he needed time to think about this. After all, even Sargeras could eat 10 in a row. Of course, the main problem now was that he had to cook everything all by himself. If he had semi-buffet dishes like hot pot or Malatang 1, it would be easier. There were job agencies on the square. Employers could find workers there, while employees could find jobs. They had an integrated system. It was said that one could find all kinds of workers there with the right money. Mag decided to check with agencies when they had their first rest day. "Money's no issue, but I need to find a reliable and diligent employee of few words, one who can get the job done." He had sold 64 Rugiamos in an hour in the morning, and the lunch time was half of an hour longer, so he planned to make more. Even one more batch meant 16 rugiamos, and they might be enough for a few more customers. Ugly Duckling fell asleep after drinking the milk. Maybe because of it, Amy leaned on the counter and also dozed off. Mag watched Amy's back through the glass and smiled. As many species as there were in this world, it had been pretty calm these days. Mag didn't feel unsafe. Under the governance of the Grey Temple, it was relatively safe to live in Chaos City, thus, Mag Alex had chosen to come here. The order in the chaos made people feel more comfortable and secure than the order relying on money and power in all the species. As usual, they had their lunch before lunchtime. Ugly Duckling showed a sullen look again, but Mag ignored it. He couldn't give it the food they were eating now. Amy was wolfing down food before her kitten, and sometimes she put the spoon in front of it, but didn't let it have any. It was even begging Amy with its paws. "You'll never be a master." Mag sighed silently as he looked at Ugly Duckling. Amy was really good, she had totally made the kitten listen to her every word. Amy grinned. "Begging won't work. You can't eat rainbow fried rice now. I was doing that on purpose." Then she put another spoon of rice in front of the kitten. Ugly Duckling looked away, seeming to doubt its life. After lunch, Mag cleared the table and poured the kitten a bottle of milk. When he handed the bottle to it, the kitten showed its teeth all the way as if trying to prove that it was ready to eat solid food. Mag was a little surprised when he found it had already had a full mouth of teeth. "Your teeth are growing pretty fast." But before Ugly Duckling could wag its tail in delight, Mag shook his head, and said, "But newborn cats can only eat solid food after a week, so you have to drink milk for several more days." Ugly Duckling became upset instantly. It sucked on the nipple in sullenness and looked away. It was not pleased with them. More customers came for lunch than Mag had expected. Because of the restaurant's location, it was not very convenient for many customers who had a relatively short lunch break to come here. Besides, not everybody could afford at least 300 copper coins for a meal 3 times a day. At long last, a lot more customers came at noon. "Hey, park the carriages far from here," Harrison said as he climbed out of his carriage. "Don't affect customers' appetite. Can't you see the big crystal glass there? They want their customers to see the beautiful view on the Aiden Square." He waved his fat arm to guide the carriages. 5 fancy-dressed men came out of the carriages. They had nearly the same build: thunder thighs, a fat waist, and a neck almost as thick as the head. Together, they looked like 6 fat brothers. "Harrison, you said you would take us to a new restaurant tonight. The food there is delicious and able to help us lose weight. Is this the one?" a fatty in yellow asked, wondering. The restaurant's decorations were relatively high-end on the Aiden Square. With that said, they didn't really care about the environment in the restaurant, they often ate street food if it was delicious. They called themselves the true foodies. Many customers are already here, but most of them seem to have a normal physique. If it really can help lose weight, what are these skinny people doing here? Harrison's friends were all made of money. The one in yellow, his family owned 3 inns, the one in green, his family ran the most popular tea shop in Chaos City. In short, they didn't have to worry about how to make money, they had a lot of pocket money every day. They ate, drank, and played together. If one of them found an interesting place, he would tell the others. So, they decided to come here this noon and try the magic food after Harrison's invitation yesterday. Harrison nodded. "Yes. But the food will only work on very fat people like us, so don't say I didn't tell you that." Then he took a glance in the direction of the restaurant. "Remember, whatever you do, don't mess with the owner's daughter. Even orcs and demons are afraid of her." The others were a little astonished. "He has such a terrifying girl." Harrison had a lot of guts among them, and even he was so afraid of this girl, so they all nodded obediently. "Let's go. I'm hungry." Harrison walked in first, followed by others. 6 fat men with an average weight of over 100 kilograms walked in together, blocking the sunlight and casting a large shadow. Other customers were all looking at them with fear. Amy's eyes widened as she watched these tall, fat customers walk clumsily in. Melon Regiment. Ugly Duckling stuck its head out of Amy's arms and watched with wide eyes. It had never seen so many fatties before. Its eyes were shining with curiosity. Mag was also a little startled when he came out holding 4 Rugiamos. Harrison said he would bring his friends here. Never thought he would bring 5. As he gazed at these 6 unusual customers, suddenly, Mag pictured a certain sight. 6 fatties were gobbling down Rugiamo while their body fat was shaking all over. It was too beautiful a picture for Mag to imagine. He was very happy to have 5 new customers, though. Mag, I'd like 3 Rugiamos, Harrison said as he took a seat. Ever since yesterday noon, he had been eating here for his every meal. He had woken up a little late this morning, so Rugiamos had been sold out when he arrived for breakfast. That was why they came here shortly after the restaurant opened at noon. Mag nodded. Sure. Please wait a section. He turned to go to the kitchen. They split up into groups of 3. The one in yellow took several deep sniffs the moment he sat down. Smells great. He looked around, trying to find the source. Yet. What's this meat? Why does it smell this good? They asked Harrison as they swallowed. It's unlike grilled meat. It's much more appetizing. Then their eyes caught the Rugiamo in the hands of that small-eyed man. The enticing smell tickled their noses. They could see a white bread in a brownish-yellow bag and a thick layer of meat stuffed inside the bread. They watched as he narrowed his eyes and took a large bite, chewing happily. They watched as he slowly swallowed. They practically swallowed at the same time. What's that? I want that. They all turned their heads to look at Harrison, waiting urgently for his answer. It was not easy for foodies to watch as others were gorging on delicious food. This is the La Rugiamo I've told you about, Harrison said calmly. Inside, he was having a blast. He loved to see their astonished faces. Owner, I'd like 3 La Rugiamos. Me too. Same here. No sooner had Harrison spoken than they started ordering. They could eat as much as Harrison, so they had all ordered 3. Okay. Just a moment, please, Mag said as he put a plate of Yangzhou fried rice before a customer. Then he turned and went into the kitchen. He was busy like a bee. What's that colorful dish? It looks good too, the fatty in red asked curiously as he looked at the Yangzhou fried rice. Rainbow fried rice. It's very good, Amy answered behind the counter. She found it really interesting to watch the Melon Regiment. They all looked in the direction of the sound, and their eyes lit up when they saw a lovely Amy sitting there while holding a strange-colored cat. Such a cute little girl. She looks like a half-elf, but she is much more adorable than a true elf. This is the owner's daughter, Harrison warned as he put a hand over his mouth to muffle his voice. This morning, he had seen with his own eyes when Amy's fireball beat a lava demon. She may look adorable, but she is a real badass. She's so cute and not as terrifying as you described, the fatty in blue said as he waved his hand. Demons and orcs must have been defeated by her cuteness. He thought Amy was harmless, and refused to believe the fact that she possessed horrible power. The one in red nodded in agreement. Exactly. I've never seen such an adorable girl before. Say what you will. Harrison put a hand on his forehead. Making them believe Amy is terrifying is a headache. Little lady, I'd like a plate of this very good rainbow fried rice, the fatty in blue said to Amy with a smile. Joy-Francois was the oldest among them. His family owned several forges, and 2 were his, but he didn't have to do anything, so he just followed Harrison and others around. The difference between him and the others was that he was married and had 3 sons. The oldest was 5. Joy always wanted a daughter, but all he had were boys. Now, the 4th one was already in his wife's belly. She had told him if the fourth one was also a boy, he could get a concubine to bear him a girl, and that she wouldn't bear another child no matter what. Of course, he didn't dare to get a concubine. His normally kind wife had been holding a pair of scissors when she said that. If it hadn't been for his sharp eyes, he might have been castrated. His resentment and anticipation made him care for little girls. He envied Mag having Amy. Such a lovely girl. He must be very happy. Amy nodded. Okay. Then she turned and shouted, "Father, Blue Fatty wants a plate of rainbow fried rice." Harrison and others burst out laughing. They were of similar build, but they still laughed out loud hearing Jaoi's nickname. Jaoi froze for an instant, and his face became a little odd. Did she just call me a blue fatty? But looking at Amy's lovely and sincere face, he was unable to get angry. Instead, even he was tempted to laugh. Yellow fatty, green fatty, red fatty, cyan fatty, and grey fatty, why are you laughing? She asked curiously as they threw back their heads and howled with laughter. Their laughter broke off suddenly. They looked at each other's clothes, and then their faces became colorful. The same thought went across their minds. She is indeed not as simple as she looks. They found her both irritating and cute. Haha, red fatty. Harrison couldn't hold back his laughter. He guffawed at the fatty in red opposite him. Shut up, you grey fatty. The one in red seemed a little embarrassed, but he felt like laughing too. Why? We're being laughed at, but we want to chuckle. There was a time when we would have overturned the table if someone laughed at us, the one in yellow said confusedly, trying to refrain from laughing. Maybe because they were not cute enough. The one in cyan sighed deeply. Mag brought 2 rigiamos for Harrison first. He had put the bread in the oven at intervals, so they couldn't be ready at the same time. Besides, rigiamo was a dish best served hot when the tasty gravy was still seeping in and wouldn't detract from the soft and crunchy texture of the bread. So, even if a customer ordered many, Mag would serve him at intervals, and those who ordered first would be served first. Please enjoy, Mag said, smiling. He went back into the kitchen. Smells terrific, the one in red observed, his eyes fixed on the rigiamo as he sniffed the strong aroma. Harrison, let me take a bite, he said expectantly while Harrison was holding 1 rigiamo in each hand. Yeah, pass it along, the one in cyan said, leaning over. The lean meat and fat in the baiji bread was very appetizing. Harrison shook his head without hesitation. He would have shared other food with them, but not this rigiamo. He didn't get to eat any for breakfast, and had waited a whole morning. To be sure, Young Joe fried rice was great, but it wouldn't make him feel high like this rigiamo would do. Be patient. I'll dig into it now, he said with a grin as they stared at him, craving. Is it really that good? They wondered. Harrison was always an easygoing person. Normally, he would share his food with pleasure, however, today he wouldn't even let them take a bite to taste it. His abnormal behavior raised their anticipation for the dish. Harrison lifted his right hand to take a large bite. His eyes closed spontaneously as he felt the gourmet food melting on his tongue. This feeling of pleasure put a smile on his face. His friends couldn't divert their eyes. Despite themselves, they, too, all swallowed as he swallowed contentedly. They couldn't feel what he was feeling, but the usually picky Harrison's satisfied smile said it all. It was as if he had been shocked by electricity. Harrison's fat was starting to shake slightly because of the rushing blood. A sheen of sweat appeared on his face, but he was really enjoying it. He took another bite, and his whole body was shaking. That's how it helps? They wondered, watching Harrison. They didn't believe him when he said it could lose weight, but now, they found themselves wrong. Other customers had noticed Harrison's unusual state as well. In astonishment, they took a look at the rigiamo in their hand, and then at the one in his, but they found nothing different about it. They could feel their blood running wild, but they didn't understand why he was acting so dramatically. Harrison's friends watched as he finished his first Rigiamo, and swallowed countless times. Finally, Mag walked out with 5 Rigiamos and served one to each of them. They came here together and were really good friends, so they didn't care who got served first. Ugly duckling, watch closely. You don't want to miss this. Amy lifted the kitten up higher against her chest and widened her eyes. Mag also stopped at the counter and looked back. 6 fatties are eating Rigiamo together. We don't come across something like this every day. They studied the Rigiamos in their hands and saw the white bread with chopped lean meat and fat inside. They were always bragging about how they had tried everything in the whole city, but they were seeing this kind of bread for the very first time. Their appetite was so whetted by the pleasant aroma and Harrison's swallowing that they all brought the Rigiamos to their mouths immediately. Harrison smiled at his friends. They will love its taste. He started eating his second one. Ah! They let out a satisfied sound in delight almost at the same time. Their voice was not very loud, but they were so in sync that other customers watched them with surprise. Those who had tried this Rigiamo knew the sound was a spontaneous reaction of the body. It was genuine, and felt so good that it was out of control. So, other customers didn't find them annoying, instead, they were really enjoying themselves because they were in exactly the same embarrassing situation as they had been. Their enjoyment turned to astonishment quickly. They found the fat on the 6 fatties was starting to shiver. The fat on their calves, legs, bellies, and necks was shaking like waves. They were making waves just by sitting together. Other customers were tempted to laugh, but thought better of it. They couldn't avert their eyes as they watched the waves, holding back their laughter. The small-eyed man's face got red, trying to refrain from laughing out. He would have guffawed if he hadn't known better. It's so funny. Amy clapped her little hands merrily. Never had she seen such an amusing reaction. These fatties can't control their fat. Meow, Ugly Duckling lifted its pink paws to cover its eyes. They scared it. It's truly exceptionally beautiful. Mag couldn't help laughing, and turned to go to the kitchen immediately. Obviously, Rigiamo is working very well on extra fat people. This could become a selling point for certain people. The 6 fatties were completely lost in the delicious taste of the food, and paid no mind to what other people were thinking. They were savoring the unprecedented gourmet dish as they felt their fat shaking. Jaoi put down the bag slowly, not quite satisfied. It's so delicious and can make me lose weight, no less. Maybe only God is able to devise a dish this magical. Harrison nodded in agreement. Mag is truly a genius. After 2 Rigiamos, he was not quite full, one more was enough. This Rigiamo can help lose weight? Other customers' faces lit up as they heard this. They all had 1 or 2 friends who were fat and fond of eating. If it's true, I'll bring my fat friends here next time.